Listen, you fuckers. You screwheads.
Just launch into it.
Bong Joon-ho won an Oscar. He won 4, actually. He won 4 Oscars.
Stole him.
You know, I don't know how much farther down the line we are from the Oscars when this is being released, but man, oh man, this might not be topical at all.
Who cares?
But regardless, we gotta talk about it because this is incredible.
Well, it's always topical when the topic is about the
History?
Oscars.
Yeah.
That's history right there.
Well,
You understand?
history is in the making.
It was already made.
It was already made.
Yeah, history
And it's
has.
continuing to be made for the rest of the year until the next Oscars. You know what I mean?
And then they
Like
undo it.
we'll ride the wave of history until they fuck it up next year.
Yeah. A Moonlight to Shape of Water type deal.
Oh, my
yeah.
good God.
Which was the stepping stone to a green book.
It's
But then
insane.
this is writing that wrong. I don't know.
We hit a very short peak and then a very long fall.
I think, you know, and I being Jesse,
I'm Frank.
I'm Brandon.
Jesse,
I'm Frank.
have
Brandon.
you guys. I haven't watched
You
the
did it.
Oscars in a couple years, this year included. And I mean, I was paying attention, like I knew they were on, and I was keeping up with the winners as I would occasionally remember, oh yeah, the Oscars are going on, and I want to make sure to monitor how awful it is. And I wasn't too terribly disappointed in the sense that like everything that happened that was not a surprise, I knew was coming. And the only real surprise of the night is all the Parasite wins. And that was the coolest thing ever. Unless, wait a minute, you made a face, Frank.
I mean,
implying that there was another surprise.
I thought Parasite was going to win Best Picture.
Whoa.
I had a feeling going in. It was on my picks. Mendes was still my director. I'm surprised he won so much.
And I want to say, though, I mean, other than Moonlight winning, just because that was such a shock and such an emotional gut punch, Bong Joon-ho's acceptance speech for Best Director is maybe the most moving Oscar speech that I've seen, at least in years. It was incredibly moving to the point of tears.
I mean, I don't watch the Oscars every year. I do like to, peruse the clips on the internet every now and then. But watching Bong Joon-ho spit his shit
4 times?
like I did,
Well,
I did tear up a little bit.
spit
It's
his
very
shit
beautiful.
to his translator, his wonderful translator.
He speaks a little bit of English too.
The little bit of English he does speak is always very poignant. I thought there was a video that was great, and I feel terrible. You should look it up. I don't know his translator's name, but it's been in the media all over the place. That's why I feel
know.
bad that I do not know.
She's going to make a movie.
A movie about the awards circuit, apparently. And I'm like,
Good.
I want to see that.
She apparently already is a filmmaker.
But I don't know if I've read if she is more independent or still like a,
Sharon Choi.
up and coming filmmaker. Shout out to Sharon Choi.
Shout out Sharon. All my
She
Sharons
did a great
out
job.
there.
But I think
Hey.
it was in one of the backstage interviews that she went off on basically one of Bong's soliloquies of gratitude about his Oscar. And then after she stopped speaking, he comes up to the mic and in English goes, "It's fucking crazy." It's like, I'm so glad this guy won Oscar. And I think it's important to point out, too, that he shouts out the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in his speech.
Yeah.
Like, how cool. Who else but Bong Joon-ho would do that at the
Tarantino.
Oscars?
I mean, he said it
Well-
himself. He's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the funniest thing.
We love that. We love weirdos
We
like
love-
Bong Joon-ho. Everyone see Parasite if you haven't. I'm sure that by this point, if you're listening, that's out there and you've probably heard about it to death.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it already, though, check it out. It's great.
I desperately want to.
And that did make us decide that we are going to do Bong Joon-ho probably pretty soon.
Hopefully. Do you both feel good about movies now?
I feel
do.
better. Going into 2020, we're in a new decade, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like a perfect way to start the season.
We'll
If
see.
you will.
This Oscar season was still pretty fucking blanco.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Very, very white. I'm glad that, this, I think the last, year and a half has been really good for Asian representation in Hollywood. You got Crazy Rich Asians, you got Parasite, you got The Farewell. A lot of things are doing pretty well for these people. So I'm happy about that. It doesn't always have to be about the black folk. It can be about all minorities. So I'm looking forward to seeing if maybe Hollywood can branch out a little bit more.
And on that note, welcome to the Chronic Canon. I am Jesse, once again.
I'm Frank.
I'm Brandon.
And I do want to put out a disclaimer that I have a cold. So I probably sound a little under the weather today.
Who has a cold?
Jesse has a cold.
I'm Frank.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Jesse, the one with the cold.
It's funny you mentioned notes. I was hoping that you and Frank could kick a little beat for me right now.
I don't know how to do a beat.
Chronic Canon. We about to go ham. Talking about you say.
What'd you say?
I said the Chronic Canon. We're about to go ham.
I hate it. You made me do a beatbox.
You can't ask white guys to do a beatbox, on
What?
standby.
Two white dudes just made a stellar ass beat for me. a couple days ago.
Yeah,
so
but that was the well thought out, planned.
you did it in 3 days.
But still,
It's not a beatbox.
it's not a beatbox. I can't just beatbox. I can't just rap. Can't do
Whatever
anything.
a honk is, let's get to the movie. That's also about a honker.
A real angry honky,
So pissed,
real
man.
lonely honky.
Wait,
never
we are doing movies from a director called Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese.
Say it with me, folks.
God,
Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese.
I've been making an active effort to say it right, just in everyday life.
I now have a heart attack every time I'm about to say it.
I made a couple enemies.
Really? How
with
so?
with the corrections I've had to make. Where I'm just like, hey, fucking watch it, dude. It's Scorsese, not Sazy.
Scorsese.
And
It's
how?
that Sazy shit.
I'm just curious if Martin Scorsese cares. Same where he's like with Ariana Grande, it's Ariana Grande. But it seems that she does not
You know,
care that much.
I would say that you can lead it back to it doesn't matter what Martin Scorsese thinks about how
It's just
he
what's
thinks.
right.
It's about what's right, you know?
Yeah.
What if he's insecure and doesn't want to correct people about his name?
Like
Maybe we should.
Rihanna.
Like Rihanna.
Yeah, like Rihanna. I was saying this the other day when I was explaining the Scorsese pronunciation. The thing that trips me up is the fact that I always call him the Scorsese. So I want to go to Scorsese. But we'll drop the subject
This
for
is
now
me,
to
Mike Tyson.
get to Scorsese's first real iconic work.
Iconic, sure.
Because I don't know if I'd call Mean Streets iconic in the
Alice
lexicon
Doesn't
of
Live Here
history
Anymore did spawn a whole TV series, but it was after the fact.
that I'd never heard of until we
weren't
did the
alive.
podcast.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess that is the relevancy of Taxi Driver, that it's a well-known movie still, even to this day.
Facts.
Mean Streets is becoming more and more, though.
I'd be more inclined to watch to see how someone would try to remake that movie.
Mean Streets?
Mhm.
Probably lame.
I mean, it's
Adding
been
a
done.
plot.
There's other movies out there that are very similar to Mean Streets. I thought Friday, in its own weird way, was very similar to Mean
Yeah,
Streets.
but not like,
It's like Ice Cube's version.
yeah.
That's what I mean. Like everyone has their own version. Not everyone. I shouldn't generalize like that.
Everyone.
Everybody's
got a
got their
Mean
own Mean
Streets.
Streets, okay? We've all been down 'em.
Every filmmaker has made one.
But anyway,
What just happened?
Scorsese. Fuck. So sorry. Scorsese went a little too far down them mean streets with a man named Paul Schrader to then create what is largely considered to be one of his best films, if not his best, by most people. I feel like Goodfellas is the only other one that I feel like switches
Raging
out.
Bull.
And Raging Bull, too.
And
That's true.
Wolf of Wall Street gets a lot of that nowadays.
From a newer generation, too, I think, especially.
Count.
Well, I'm not saying that that doesn't count.
It's not one of those classics.
But I do think, to speak on that a bit, the interesting thing about Taxi Driver is that
Today's movie.
yes, today's movie is Taxi Driver. And, you know, just because we didn't explain before, Chronic Canon, a podcast in which we smoke movies and we talk weed. It's live in our ears, not in yours. And if you don't like heat, leave now.
You gotta get out.
Just get all the bits out the way.
Yeah.
Just real
Okay,
quick,
but
roll
if you
over.
haven't seen Heat, that's fine.
you
Yeah,
haven't. You don't have
that's
to,
important.
You don't have to have seen it. You just have to like it.
So
if
I
you
would
have seen it and actively dislike it, get the fuck out of here.
This is not for you. All right, now that they're gone, we can
Hey,
begin talking.
hey, you. Hey. All right.
You talking to me?
No, the person who lingered. Oh, hey.
It's going to come up throughout the day.
Live in our ears.
Yeah, not in
Remember?
yours, baby.
Fucking could plan anything intelligently.
Well, that's...
Cohesively.
See, again, this is where weed comes in because we don't talk about it too much.
It's jazz, baby.
It's the J.
Even though we talk weed and we smoke movies. Anyway,
And today we're going to smoke Taxi Driver. About that honky ass Travis.
that honky ass Travis Bickle.
that honky ass taxi driver.
Oh, that honky tonk man.
He's got a
That's
thing.
like 3 levels. The Rolling Stones.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But anyway, Martin
hilarious.
Scorsese. Yeah, about Sassy.
I'm leaving. Oh my god.
You know what's funny? We said at the start of this
falling
podcast
apart.
that this was the least high that we've been going into it. And I still think I am not as high as I normally am, but maybe I'm just goofier when I'm not high
know.
or just like mildly.
All I know is you're
Stone?
both fucking out.
Gabagool.
I'm fucking up?
royally. Both of you.
I'm sorry.
What
I hope this is fun for everyone that's listening.
You
But
don't have
anyway,
to apologize to me.
let's get this taxi rolling. Let's get this taxi rolling.
All right, I'm
Okay.
starting. I'm pulling the lever.
Rev them
for the,
engines.
for
Rev
the-
that
for the
engine.
fair. Ka-ching.
The
Clean the
fair
cum
has
off the
started.
seats.
Sometimes blood.
Sometimes the blood.
Mostly cum.
And we'll work anytime, anywhere.
Anytime.
Anyway,
I got a 5-minute window.
gabagool.
I hate
This
Uh,
is drive.
So I mentioned Paul Schrader earlier, and I
yeah.
want to go into that a bit just because this is a movie that I think not only operates well. For a long time, it was my favorite Martin Scorsese film.
But
I
yeah.
would say though that it's in equal
Wait.
measure my favorite Paul Schrader film.
Who's Paul Schrader?
The writer of Taxi Driver.
Did you see the writer of the book?
There was no book.
There's no book?
No, but
You really did your research, huh?
I didn't research this movie. I watched it, I got upset, and then I thought about it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is our longest break between recording and watching. But,
Yes.
But a good one to
Yeah.
ruminate on.
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of new thoughts about it.
I probably did at the time that we watched it, but it's definitely been too long for me. Uh,
That's funny.
but anyway,
I don't think it's Paul Scherer's best movie.
What's his best movie?
Blue Collar.
Oh, that's right. See, and I'm bummed because you had recommended watching that.
I don't
didn't
think-
have the time.
You'll feel that way.
Taxi Driver. Okay, and I think it's another thing to note that Taxi Driver is a movie that I feel like, as a cinephile in air quotes, is a movie that's introduced real early on in your journey into cinema. And I was probably 13. I specifically remember, actually, I was with Frank at a Blockbuster. He'd taken me in to just be like, all right, so we're gonna go on like a sweep of like a bunch of shit that you just gotta see. And Taxi Driver was one of those movies. We both bought our own copies, I think, that
Your
day.
dad paid for mine, and I paid him back when we got back to your house.
How funny.
Because I left my wallet. But I think the whole time he was like, this fucking kid just got me to buy him a fucking DVD. Because he seemed pissed. And then once we got back and I gave him the money, he was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I won your dad.
Almost outed him on the podcast.
Am I allowed to? I
No,
don't know the
like,
rules.
we almost ousted your dad, so should we just oust our dads?
No.
real quick?
We just say dad.
Should
Anyway.
we just oust our dads real quick?
No.
Hey, yo, fuck you, Dad. His name is, he lives here.
But for real, off mic, I
Social
do want your
Security
dad's
numbers.
Twitter handle. Like, please.
I don't
I
even
looked
know
for. I
it.
searched it up. I searched up many things, like trying to find it. Anyway,
I bet I can find it.
we watched Taxi
I
Driver.
don't even have a Twitter. I being Frank.
I'm Jesse.
Brandon.
I have a cold. Did we watch it that day too? Was that the first day I saw it?
Now that I can't tell you.
Well, regardless, I had seen it around that time, and I know we were very young, probably 13 or 14. And I think it's interesting that upon reflection and upon revisiting Taxi Driver every so often, I feel like at this point, because I watched the hell out of it, it became a movie that Frank would describe as something you'd seen too many times. Thought you were going to be able to just fill that in.
I was like, what did I say about it?
Like a movie that you can't enjoy as much just simply by proxy of seeing it so many times.
Yes, I would typically categorize it in that. This is what I find the appeal of doing the filmography in order, because I don't feel the same way. I feel like I'm able to almost watch everything for the first time because I'm watching it specifically in context of what came before it.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm
With a
trying
different
to,
lens.
yeah, and I'm trying my hardest to do the cognitive dissonance of like pretending I don't know what is to come. It's hard, obviously the Irishman rules, but it's trying to keep shit like that out of mind.
Yeah.
Like, let me evaluate this as the movie it is and what came before it.
Yes.
I think it's good that the Scorseses that I saw, I've only seen once. And a lot of these I am seeing for the first time. But even like the later ones that I have seen, not being as fresh in my mind, are helping me see the movies that we're watching now for what they are. And still, to be able to see the growth is pretty nice. It's pretty cool. And that I can actually like see it. Like, I don't have to just guess there's growth. I'm able to physically see it because I'm seeing the same themes played throughout all of his work.
And regardless of your feelings on this particular film, I think it's undeniable, no matter what across the board, that the filmmaking jump
Oh my God.
is absurd.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is already there in quality as far as Alice doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah,
but then
absolutely.
the
I agree.
style.
I
Well,
think
he
it
just was
gets-
given a fucking treasure trove
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Schrader, basically, to
I
just
think-
go and do a bunch of visual shit.
I think this one has more, Taxi Driver being this one, has more of like a Scorsese touch to it. Like, it feels like he's like, oh shit, like I get to like make like my own movie. It feels like he's kind of got the reins like he did on Mean Streets again. And Alice
Yeah.
Doesn't Live Here Anymore is very good in terms of the technical aspects, the camera work and stuff like that, and kind of seeing how he likes to set up his shots. That's cool, but him, you know, kind of being more in charge of the stylistic things in this movie, you can definitely tell what's going to start to be like his thing.
I even feel like there's more of a immediacy to Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, whereas everything in Taxi Driver feels incredibly calculated and like well established as far as the pre-production phase and figuring like storyboarding and all that stuff, which I guess to bring up that point, that was another thing at that age when I first saw Taxi Driver. And I mean, to an extent I still am, but I don't do it as religiously as I used to. But any film that had a bonus feature documentary or documentaries about the making of the film or the legacy, whatever, I just absorbed essentially, like, and watched constantly. And Taxi Driver was one of those films.
How much do you feel like that still resonates with you today? Like stuff you watched back then? Like those making ofs?
They resonate quite well still, actually, just because I feel the same inspiration that I felt back then, and that same, like, you know, sort of fire under my ass, if you will, to get out there and make my own movies.
Not too long after Irishman came out, Netflix, their Twitter released a little clip. Actually, they released a couple of little clips, or maybe just one big montage.
That 4-minute Scorsese directing,
I
it's one of
remember
the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Jesse sent me the tweet, and, you know, I watched the whole video, and I was like, oh, that was cool. And he goes, I'm literally crying right now.
I was physically in tears.
So, you know, I think that goes to show that he can still resonate with these things.
Like
still
seeing Marty
connect.
like standing by the monitor just cracking up at De Niro being like, get in the fucking car. Like, it's so cute. I love it. And he's so earnest and loves it so much. Like, this is exactly what he was born to do. And I think Taxi Driver does sort of thrust him into the world-class director category. And that's pretty fucking insane to say for a fifth feature off of those past 4 films, too. It's a pretty unexpected jump. Like you were saying, Frank, trying to put the blinders on to the rest of Scorsese's career and all the things I've already seen previous, keeping that mindset that this is, you know, a chronology of style developing and skill developing and all that, and it's astounding.
While
but
also being kind of a divergence from even the future established style.
Divergent?
Divergence?
Divergent, Shailene Woodley,
God
Ansel
damn it.
Elgort.
No. Is Ansel over it?
I don't know.
I've seen it.
Have you seen more than one?
wait,
No,
hold
I
on.
only saw
You're
the
talking about
first one.
Divergent?
No.
No, he is in one of them.
He is?
Told you.
Yeah.
I don't care. Listen, I looked up some stuff.
Wait, no, it's not Ansel Elgort, man. It's Miles Teller.
I know.
Oh,
Fuck.
you son of a bitch. He's not even important. He's like a dick and does nothing. Listen.
I knew it was Shailene Woodley was in 2 movies with that fuck, and the other one was The Spectacular Now. You shit.
You shit.
You've seen both.
Hey, do you guys
Gabagool.
remember the Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore budget, roughly? Because I don't feel like Googling it.
I remember you had said 85,000, and you were like,
No,
that,
that was
seems
wrong.
incredibly low.
And then I fixed it. It doesn't matter.
Anyway,
So the Taxi Driver one, the budget was 1.3 million, which today is $6 million. Pretty good. Guess how much it made?
how much?
$28.4 million, which
Pretty damn
today,
good.
$128 million
Pretty damn good for a movie of that
Taxi
stature, too.
Driver
Yeah, I know.
was
That's
a
insane.
huge hit.
I mean-
which then I looked, New York, his budget after, $14 million at the time, $60 million in today's money. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
makes a
Wow.
mega hit and they just go, take it. And apparently it tanks him. We haven't watched it yet. We'll see.
Oh, I didn't know it tanked though.
Oh, I think it was like such
This
a
was-
bomb that it was like, you're done.
We'll talk more
We'll
about the
talk-
history after we're done talking about the movie itself, I
Yeah.
think. But New York kind of marked what could have been an end to Scorsese's career.
This was like the keys to the car, and then he crashed it.
Yep, hard. Like real
Taxi
hard.
Driver was
it
nominated
the
for
Coke?
Best Picture, and I think Best
The
Director.
Coke was a part of it.
Bro, I read a quote.
Okay.
I got it up. Apparently, according to co-producer Julia Phillips in the editing room, Scorsese would often pop lewds and drink Dom Perignon in the cutting room.
This makes
Of
The
this
Wolf of Wall
movie?
Street a little better, too.
Taxi Driver?
Yes, while editing Taxi Driver, he was just like getting fucked up.
You can, I mean, you
My
can,
man.
you can feel that a little bit because I didn't know that bit of information.
I think this was a desperate cry, and then it was a hit, and then New York, he crashes the car, and then Raging Bull brings him back to life. It's
Yeah.
a brand new Cadillac.
God
But
damn.
we're not there yet.
Frank, do you want to take us into the film itself?
Not really.
All right.
I
I
will.
mean,
Starts hot.
Starts pretty hot.
it's got some
Oh.
blurry lights, some good jazz score.
Blurry lights, good jazz. There was a
more
shot.
specifically Bernard
Oh my
Herrmann's.
god.
Oh, fuck off!
No,
Are
no,
you serious?
it's
like, like I'm not gonna mention Bernard Herrmann. It's like literally his second best score, and that says a lot.
I know
Like, a lot.
Can't
we're
wait till
not there
later.
to make merch yet, but if there ever comes a day, I want a shirt that says, like, I'm not gonna mention Bernard Herrmann.
I would wear that shirt proudly.
Write it down.
All right,
Listen,
we live in a society.
That's
in
why books are
2020.
we should have watched.
Joker.
Just
Yeah.
to know.
No, I thought about it. Well, later. Keep
I
going.
still am.
The movie opens with some neon lights, some rain, some smoke, some jazz.
For the first time, I felt like I actually felt from the word go, it's trying to slip you into Travis's warped perspective.
Oh yeah,
Not
big time.
just his perspective, like the way he sees the world is literally warped by when all the images start to like, you know what? part I'm talking
No,
about
absolutely.
in the credits.
Yeah, no,
like
it's
everything. Not
I can't
only
explain what it is, but it
blurred,
literally looks like trippy.
Yeah, like everything's melting or everything's swirling. It's like, oh, because before that you get the shot of his eyes and he's driving, and then you have that like
It's a motion blur. It's a motion blur thing
through the windshield, the motion blur, and it's like he doesn't see the world like a normal person. It is distorted. It is ugly, and you're just trying from the literal opening to get that to you. I was like, good shit.
Yeah,
my
real good
guy.
shit.
Like, I know that I'm late to that party, but it was the first time where I knew. I mean, it's obvious it's trying to get you in his perspective. The whole movie's from his perspective, right?
Yeah.
But that was like the wartness.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is intense. You smart,
Now that you mentioned
smart boys.
Now that you mentioned that, I think because I realized I don't think I finished my thought earlier in talking about having seen it at such a young age. Initially, and the more I see it as I get older, the more disturbing it becomes. Not just the fact that I saw this movie that young, because holy shit. Back then, I think it's so funny how I thought I could watch anything and, was totally comfortable with watching anything simply by proxy of it being good. And looking back now, being like, should I have done that? Like, that was...
I think as a young man, it's lacking empathy while engaging in that way.
Yeah.
You're not empathizing with the actions on screen. You're just watching them, so you take it at a face value.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, is a way that a lot of people still receive films.
Yeah.
And that's how protagonists get put on pedestals that are so clearly trying to be like, no, the opposite of the pedestal,
and
my friends.
Come to think of it...
There's a meme that's like the film bro starter pack, and it's like Tyler Durden and Walter White and Rick Sanchez and
Travis Bickle.
Travis Bickle's usually on there. It's like, if you put them on a pedestal, you miss the point.
Yeah, and Taxi Driver is also a movie that
Joker.
is like a poster on like all college dorm room walls.
Literally a poster in my first film.
That's right. That's funny.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a good poster.
It's a great poster.
That was the extended thing, and that was only 6 years ago. 5 years ago?
Yeah. I will say, for your sake, I remember in the production we were desperate for set dressing, and this was this was Frank's first film. I'm just anyway, I want to make sure that it's established. I'm defending your honor here. Fucking we had to put up film posters because that was literally all we had. Being like movie people, we don't have paintings and things hung up in the house. We got posters. Yeah. So there was Taxi Driver and there was Blue Velvet, and I don't know if there was any more than that.
Another one. Literally another one.
But Taxi Driver, there's never a time that I've ever watched this movie in which I've thought by the end, oh, I like this guy, or I'm rooting for this guy. You can tell he's a bad person. It's pretty fucking blatant. But
I do say it gets a little convoluted at the end when he goes and saves the child prostitute, but that's just me.
We're not there yet. Keep it in the pocket.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I suppose
it's a little
spoilers if you haven't already figured out. And I'm only saying that if you're a first-time listener.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoiler-friendly podcast.
If looks could kill, I'd be dead. Just so you know, if I spoiled this podcast, Jesse just killed me.
It's gonna be in our description, so
yeah, that's who gives a shit.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Taxi Driver and listening to this, you're literally
insane.
Leave.
Yeah.
Leave.
No.
Go watch it.
Yeah. I mean, for real though, it is a very important
movie.
movie.
What's the point of this? If you're gonna watch it or you've seen it, like, why are you listening?
There are plenty of people that don't watch movies and just read the Wikipedia. So I could totally see a person being like, I'd rather hear someone tell me what this movie is.
I've done that for movies I know I'm literally never going to watch. I'm like, I just gotta know what happens.
Okay.
Crying Game. I know for a fact. I'm like, I'm never gonna take the time to watch this movie. What happens? Reddit. Oh, that's dumb.
Oh, dumb? Okay. I've never seen that either.
Who cares? It's the Crying Game. Why did I bring it up? Fuck me.
But I think that's a point only because I think that even talking about Joker and the whole idea that like this glorification of this kind of idea of a man or masculine man rather, and the existential man or whatever, God's lonely man.
Ew.
Joker now having been brought into the conversation by proxy of just being a comic book studio film. So yeah, I don't know. Like it depends on the viewer, I suppose. But you're right when you say that there are plenty of people that do look to Travis Bickle as, sort of a literal anti-hero, but like more leaning toward that hero element.
That's the whole thing in the movie. If he went through with his first act, the story would be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he didn't.
And that ties into real life a bit too. But
boom, boom, boom.
We'll get to that
Let
also.
me say way-ho.
Way-ho. Anyway. Was there any more you had to say on that subject? Or either of you?
Oh, just that one.
Before we get into it, like preliminary.
Oh my God.
When I was a boy, I thought he was a hero.
Did you really?
No, but I was like, kill him. Cool. That's all it was.
Well, I mean,
When
but
I was
I guess like in that sense, it's like, but yeah,
I wasn't
those
rooting
are
against
bad
him.
people. We're not rooting against them to not kill those people. But then I always think about, well, I actually think I think about it more now that I'm older. Jodie Foster might be more scarred by that, and then
Yeah.
having to be assimilated
Yeah,
back
yeah.
into normal
Yeah.
quote society.
That's not. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
That's just fact. This is normal to him.
I
That's
say
the
if because we
point.
don't see it, so it's like you got to presume that it's a
Bruh.
possibility.
Bruh.
Okay, I like ambiguity. Okay.
There's not a whole lot here.
I know how to
There
pronounce
is.
ambiguity, by the way. Just saying. I was saying it funny. People are going to think I'm dumb on the
I ain't
podcast.
stupid.
You ain't.
I know what ambiguous means.
I'm Frank.
I'm Jesse.
Brandon.
None of us
cold.
are stupid. Maybe we're all stupid.
Yeah,
Is
probably.
that the joke? I'm done with my bit. Let's get to the movie.
Yeah, so we then see Travis's shifting eyes in a close-up, and I believe that that's what brings us into the actual movie itself. You can see the red and green lights on his face, and you're hearing Bernard Herrmann's score swelling underneath. And I think he starts narrating and everything. We're going to go through the plot pretty loosely as far as
No,
this
the
movie
narration doesn't
goes.
start in that first scene.
You're right. And it fades out of the credits. Then he goes and sees Joe Spinell from Maniac at the taxi station. Or not, I don't even know if it's a station. I don't know what you'd call that. The hub?
Yeah.
It's called the taxi hub. That's
Home
not
base.
the hub base where he applies to
Yeah.
be a taxi driver. And it goes through a little bit of his background. He's a veteran from the Vietnam War.
Marines, right?
Yeah, Marine Corps.
Man.
And he will work anytime, anywhere.
Days, nights, anytime, anywhere.
Doesn't matter. Why do you think he does that? Because he's just
Just
trying
wants long hours.
So
to occupy the time.
this is what we should talk. All the things you mentioned, a lot of them. What are all the things just from that opening scene we know about Travis? That he's Marine,
Yep.
Vietnam.
Yep.
Will drive anywhere.
Yeah, probably has nothing to do.
But because he said before he's just riding around at nights.
Yeah.
I might as well get paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's riding buses, subways. He's doing nothing. He's literally doing nothing and
Yep.
said, I might as well get paid doing nothing.
Yep.
Because at some point, I'm jumping ahead, but you see he's wounded. So he probably wasn't working. Didn't have to work. Some form of compensation.
Yep.
Who knows? Not the point. Point is, so he's just literally a wanderless man. And what else do we learn? He's 26.
26.
26.
He goes to the movies. Isn't that what he says?
He might say
Oh,
that
no,
in
no,
there,
no. The guy goes, go to porno theaters. That's what those are
Yeah.
for. And he said, I tried that. It doesn't work. And,
Yeah, he's an
but- Oh, 'cause he's
insomniac. He can't
insomniac,
sleep.
yeah.
and
That's why he'll
he-
do anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, he tries smiling and he looks like untrustworthy. And I think the guy picks up on that until he's like, I'm a veteran. And then he's like, I was too. All right, you can have a job.
Okay,
I don't care.
You're cool.
You're my bro.
And then he walks
I
out.
understand.
I think he chugs a bit of alcohol on his way out the door.
Is
Unless
that
that's
scene?
later. I
That
don't
might-
know.
I
We
don't
might be
know.
jumbling things
No.
around, but regardless, I can't remember what he does immediately after that.
You learn a lot in just a very short amount of time.
And I don't
Well-
think in a way that is blatantly like expositional in a bad way. Like I
No.
think it actually uses exposition quite brilliantly. Just in how it's not subtle per se, but it's definitely earned. And that's again applying to Paul Schrader's script.
It's the scene after this where the narration starts. I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
'cause It's him driving around the city, and he's just going on this whole monologue about what he thinks about the city and how it's all dirty and stuff. And
You
he's
gotta clean all that scum off the streets. Someday a rain will come and wash all the dirt off the streets.
it's insinuated that he means all the bad people, any drug dealing criminals, but he does only look at the black people. I made a note of it.
Yeah,
It's just
it's-
what,
And
it's
I
just what you
noticed
see.
it. The intensity of it is
It-
just
it's-
insane.
The way I gotta say, acting is good when I can't separate you from the character and I start to dislike you. And I was just,
And you love De Niro.
and I was pissed at him by the end of this fucking movie. I was just like, what the fuck's your deal, you dude?
That's the question.
But
You know who else they
it's
said
not
that
his fault.
to? Jesus.
But I think it's important
Crucified De Niro.
to note, I think that at least at the start of this movie, and I do think that this is probably the unpopular opinion, at least of the room, but I'm glad that I've at least heard others speak of it, that there are bits starting around this point in the movie because he's not completely off the rails at the beginning. And I think that that's part of the reason of what makes the film doubly uncomfortable, in which you can empathize and relate to situations he's in towards the front.
Certain situations,
It
yes.
doesn't last long.
No, he eventually betrays us, and it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oh, can I tell you a thing I just read? I'm sorry. Apparently, in his diary, he's consciously attempting to include aphorisms, such as, you're only as healthy as you feel. And then I looked that up. I was like, and to make sure this is what that means, that phrases of the time.
Oh.
So he's intentionally trying to keep up with the times. Like, I'm a part of society. I understand these things.
That's why
but
he has
I think
that.
he uses them wrong a lot or something. Reading that, I'm like, oh, there are things that were very specific to then that just sound like he's saying things.
Yeah.
But he's not doing it right. It's like that forcing himself to be included. He's depressed and lonely and doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
God,
That's
what
like that having the posters on his wall and like the moment he hears a
One of these days I'm
musical
gonna get
artist
organized.
recommended by somebody, he just goes out and buys the record. We haven't gotten there
he's
yet,
not a
but
person.
No.
That's what it is at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
he's
All right,
just a funnel for information.
When you have no purpose, no purpose.
Wipes.
All right, I'm sorry. Derailing the plot. What happens after he monologues for a while?
Returns the cab.
He does return the cab.
Pops
Yeah.
some pills.
He does pop some.
Maybe that's what he
And
does.
that's
I
when he starts to drink, I think, because I have a little note here that he day drinks in the porn theater, which is where he goes right after.
Oh, yeah.
That is one of the first scenes.
Well, he has a
Yeah.
Royal Crown, which is a soda.
RC Cola?
RC Cola, yeah.
He wasn't drinking?
No, that was a
No,
soda.
but he was boozing in the way into the theater. I
Yeah,
think.
probably. He has a flask or something.
Yeah. God.
Oh, he
But-
tries to flirt with the...
Yeah, well, he
It's a-
tries to ask
Oh,
out
my-
the clerk behind the counter.
That's your first little taste of that. Travis Bickle, I don't know how to talk to people
He
at
does
all.
stop.
Which
to give
does
credit.
make you feel bad in that first scene. You're like,
I-
wow, this guy just clearly
Doesn't get it. He doesn't
Yeah.
get it.
like, that sucks. But then he just keeps not getting it. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, my guy.
Ain't
You're
working
going to
out.
be not my guy soon. This ain't a good look.
Yeah, but he gets a lot of snacks. Like,
He does get a lot of snacks to go into the porno.
yeah,
Going
to
to
then
the
go into the
porn
porno
theater.
and then just watch casually.
Well, I didn't know this for a long time. You're not allowed to jerk off in porno theaters.
How? I mean, like, I
Like,
guess,
what-
yeah.
What?
What made you think that you were? It's still the public.
I didn't think it mattered. I thought it was one of those things where it's just like, yeah, everybody's jerking off in there. Who cares?
No.
Well, I mean, there's
That would
probably
be-
certain places that's an
okay,
unspoken
you gotta
thing.
think
Why
about-
would you go?
Some people like porn for the art of it.
I think you're supposed
For-
to, for this movie, go, why would you go then? Because he's literally just sitting there to watch.
It's wild.
There's nothing sexual about it. He just needs the images.
Yeah.
Okay, for him specifically, but porno theaters were very much a thing. And that's not to say
Fucking
people
dumb.
didn't jerk off in them all the time. You just weren't supposed to do it in a way that got you caught.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's because if they made it legal to jerk off in public in one place, what's to stop them? Like, all right, here's the jerk off
You're right.
bar down the street.
You're right. Well, if it's a jerk off bar, then everybody knows it's the jerk off bar. What I thought you were going to lead to is what's going to stop me from jerking off in a normal movie theater, and that's not okay.
Both, they're bad.
Yeah, no, jerk off bar, same concept. Don't go if you're not going to jerk off. Like,
Frank's lady friend caught a guy jerking off at the movie theater. She
yeah.
worked at In the Help.
sure did.
It's
I don't remember that being the thing.
That was the movie.
That's
I
hilarious.
vividly remember that part of
eat
the
my
story.
shit. I'm gonna come.
I have not seen.
Holy shit, I'm gonna go.
You haven't seen The Help?
No.
I feel ashamed that I saw it, and when I saw it, I liked it. But I was young and impressionable and didn't know it might have been racist.
It
I
just-
probably would have liked Gone with the Wind if I had seen it young enough.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, you can like anything if you see it young enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
I don't know what you're saying.
I think he was insinuating something terrible.
Yeah, I was. but I mean that explains like. Never mind. I'm not going down this road.
Okay.
Kids are the most impressionable.
Don't go down the mean streets, okay?
That's what I'm saying. That's how you create little Nazis. All right. Now we're moving on.
Jojo
Mass
Rabbit.
Effect.
Jojo Rabbit. You know what else was nominated for Best Picture? Joker. You know what that's like? Taxi Driver. Brought it back.
Good shit.
So he jerks off. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't jerk
He
off
leaves
at the porno theater.
theater.
Is that when he goes and meets the other cabbies?
Yes.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
he doesn't really meet. He's just sitting there with the other caddies
That's
while they
right.
talk, and he stares.
Peter Boyle is there.
He always looks like he's like calculating and observing and like taking notes because he's fucking weird.
Well,
To
he's
me, it just
quite
like
weird.
he was just like blankly staring without any thoughts going in his mind, but just the noise of like.
Well, I think that's
Also
represented
possible.
visually through him throwing the Alka-Seltzer tablet into his water and like watching it slowly bubble up.
And then the cream and the coffee.
Oh yeah, he's very edgy. He's like,
He
"This
eats
is
like
me."
fucking shit. Like, what is his goddamn diet? Like, we've observed some weird things. Like, he's eating popcorn. I think he has a Chuckles bar, whatever the fuck that is. And I think he has the Royal Crown soda. And then at this point now he's having like that Alka-Seltzer water and the coffee. And I don't know if he orders any food or anything in that scene. But I do know that that's, I think, the first time that we get a real intense shot of him staring down African Americans in the establishment.
The two dudes, quote unquote, dressed like pimps.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that there's also a black guy sitting at the table with them. And Travis doesn't really interact much with him as far as I remember.
Yeah, he says like "hey" to him, and he goes, "see you later, killer."
Yeah, that's right. He calls him killer.
He's the first person to do that.
Mm-hmm.
People start doing it throughout the whole movie, like questioning his authority, calling him killer, mocking him, and taunting him. But the first guy to do it is that the black cabbie. It's fucking.
I guess
movie.
this is an interesting place for me to bring up something. This is another movie that I really wanted to see before, or again, I've seen it once. I do not remember very much about it. Actually, like almost nothing at all.
Taxi Driver?
No, a movie called The Searchers that came out in 1956. In our previous podcast, we've actually discussed The Searchers a little bit because Martin Scorsese.
Fucking it up the most.
It's my cold. It's my cold. It's my cold. Scorsese loves John Ford, if you recall, and John Ford made The Searchers. I remember when I saw The Searchers for the first time being very put off by it because the movie is like very vehemently like racist, or at least it seems to be vehemently racist.
It's pretty accepted as one of the 10 best movies ever.
That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me?
And the other thing is, I guess, like, because and actually in doing some research, it doesn't seem that John Ford was as, if he had racism within him, it was not as, public or as potent as it was in that of Mr. John Wayne, the star of The Searchers. So if anyone hasn't read his Playboy interview from, I believe, 71, holy shit. Like
crazy.
That thing.
I haven't.
Oh, man, you're in for not a treat.
Into the pod.
Into the
Let's
pod,
just read a little excerpt from it. It's
nuts.
Bonkers.
It's bonkers.
You got to pull it up. Can I say one quick thing about The Searchers?
Yeah.
I think I watched either an hour or more a long time ago, and I was like, this kind of sucks, and I never finished. I was like, what is the big deal?
Now that
this kind of sucks.
I had a similar thought, but I do remember and I get it more now that I've started watching more John Ford movies. I've seen 3 other than The Searchers now, and I've been trying to go like sort of chronologically, and I've loved what I've seen thus far. But his style is just very moody and atmospheric, or at least that part of his style is what I really latch on to, and I think that is very present in The Searchers, and I wasn't prepared for that going in.
Okay.
So that was why I wanted to watch it again before we did the pod. However, I did not. So I'll talk about it very loosely. But John Wayne's character specifically is like seriously racist. And I can't remember what his name is off the top, but he's an iconic character. People talk about him all the time as being an anti-hero too, but I didn't know and understand that was integral to the character and that he is like
Ethan Edwards,
that's right. And that Travis Bickle is sort of a modern update on that character, and even the plot itself of Taxi Driver mirrors that of a cowboy drifting, along the West with his horse, his taxi.
Yeah.
And I just think that having that analogy in here at this moment is pretty good, because like that scene alone could mirror a saloon scene in any given Western where you meet some of the cast of heroes and villains. Or
can I ask a question that I'm nervous I'm completely making up?
Yeah.
Didn't Schrader intentionally write what eventually is Harvey Keitel and Jodie Foster and all of them to be black?
Yes, that is correct.
The studio was like,
no, it wasn't the studio. It was Marty.
Marty was the one?
Marty was the one that was like, I think we already nailed that he's racist, man. I think we know. But Schrader agreed. It was Schrader who was like, yeah, you're right.
Well, that's good.
I don't know. That might be a better movie.
I mean, it's pretty fucking intense as is, man.
Yeah,
it's wild that this movie is as huge as it is, because it's just like, because that's the other thing too that I want to go circle back to, the being 13 and seeing this again, because at that time we've already brought up a couple of the other movies that cycle through that inaugural you watch movies now list, and the like Fight Club, Pulp Fiction, Clockwork Orange, a bunch of other ones, and like Clockwork Orange is one that I'd loop up with Taxi Driver in this regard, but that a lot of those movies don't hold weight anymore, or at least nearly as much weight, whereas Taxi Driver and Clockwork Orange more specifically is an example of a movie that carries not just the same amount of weight that it did when we were young, but if not more.
Way more.
So
fucked up, and now we get it.
Yeah, regardless of all that, where were we in the plot again?
Let's move more loosely. Eventually he gets to Betsy.
Well, he starts...
I think that's the next big thing.
Yeah, because he starts narrating through his journal entries, and he just starts talking about her, quote. And it's like, who's her? And then we get that shot beautiful, gorgeous slow motion shot of Sybil Shepherd walking into the office with Marty in frame, staring her down as she walks through. And I think it's funny that he probably shot that scene before knowing that he would be involved as an actor later in the film. So they had no choice but to use that take, which is hilarious.
It was supposed to be his Hitchcock moment, but instead
He gets a full scene. We'll get to that in just a bit.
they cannot
Touch her. He's watching her through the window, and then we
Like a
cut
fucking
inside.
weirdo.
And this is,
like a fucking weirdo.
you know, it's funny because I talked about when we finished the movie that the one scene that people always cite as being the one scene that breaks from Travis's perspective is the one with Keitel and Foster later in the film, but we directly break from his perspective plenty of times with Betsy and Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
And I can't remember his character's name. But
He's watching them.
Yeah, he's
That's the
so that's the whole thing is that he's watching them, but we do get direct, dialogue
We
and all that stuff. We assume. I guess you could apply it to the same notion of it's all his thoughts and his
She might not
imagination.
have any romantic relationship with Albert. He's inventing one.
It's possible.
It's
and
possible.
If that's true, I'm glad they didn't make that known. Like,
I'm just kidding. I think it is pretty what's happening.
we learn a bit about a presidential candidate in this sequence named Charles Palantine, who is he's the Democratic candidate, right? Or he's running in the Democratic Party. Look it up. Because I want to say he was Democratic, but I could be quite wrong. Charles Palantine's campaign is being run by a slew of people, including Betsy and Albert Brooks. And Albert Brooks is a jokester. He seems to be the one person in the movie that supplies any sort of lighthearted comedy element.
And who to think that he would only go on later in life to stab Ryan Gosling in the chest.
And Find Nemo.
He's the same dude?
Yeah, that's the voice of Marlin.
Oh my God, he's the voice of Marlin? You guys never told me that. You guys are my dudes on the inside. You're supposed to keep me updated.
That is Albert Brooks.
Democratic.
Democratic.
It was way harder to find than it should have been.
Okay. Eventually,
Even though we probably say
Albert Brooks shoos Travis away when Sybil Shepherd is like, the taxi driver watching me. Please make him go away. And Travis, terrified.
They got a good rapport.
They do. The two of them, Albert Brooks and Sybil Shepherd.
That's important.
And inevitably, Travis makes the big move to go in and talk to her. And I believe that happens pretty hot off the heels.
There's one
after that
scene between them. Jodie Foster's introduction.
That's right. Jodie Foster gets into the back of the cab.
With Sport, her pimp.
Played brilliantly by Harvey Keitel.
We don't know that yet, though.
But we don't know that yet. Though.
Yeah.
His face is hidden. It is his voice.
Yeah.
When you rewatch, it's like, oh, Keitel.
Yeah.
Nice. But she tries to get in his cab, is like, drive. And then Keitel grabs her, gives Travis money, tells him to forget it. He keeps the money. And then I think the next scene is Betsy, take 2.
Yeah. And that's when he enters the campaign office looking as fly as he does in the rest of the movie.
Looks pretty good.
Looks pretty fly.
Looks a little tired. Looks a little sickly.
I mean, when your fucking diet consists of bread ripped up in a bowl soaked in whiskey and sugar. A lot of fucking sugar, man. Ugh. So gross. You're probably bound to look a little shitty. But regardless,
totally.
He goes in there and just starts telling Betsy what her life is, basically. Running down what he thinks and imagines her life to be. And we get a lot, and this is where, I want to just bring up that we get a lot of shots in this movie of hands over objects and operating with objects. I think that comes directly from the influence of Bresson and a movie that we have yet to mention, but and that's my Paul Schrader impression.
Just
what?
All right, just real fast.
Quickly.
Paul Schrader.
Paul.
Writer of Taxi Driver.
Yes.
Eventually became film director. Made First Reformed.
First
Was
Reformed.
his first important movie in a lot of years. All of a sudden is on the award circuit because
Look at
that's what happens.
Great.
So he's given tons of interviews.
Yes.
Bitch.
We're fans of the movie.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been thinking about it a lot. This movie made me like that movie way less.
Okay.
But every single one
Yes.
that I listened to, I'm not exaggerating. I'm pretty sure once I pointed out, Jesse confirmed every single one. He mentions seeing for the first time. And he talks like that now. He's like an old bulldog of a human man.
And my life was changed forever.
So what's the movie, though?
It's a pickpocket.
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 The movie follows and that's another thing that Paul Schrader said specifically, because I think that the Western bit that I brought up earlier
Marty.
is more Marty.
Yeah.
And the European existential hero being dropped into 70s America, more specifically New York, is Schrader's deal.
Yeah.
Try and-
Pickpocket is the same. He journals. He talks about his life.
Narrates.
He narrates. All he does is pickpockets, and then he like has a girl he's obsessed with.
It's like all about the process, and we even get that with the taxi driver stuff,
Yeah.
like him explaining his whole job, and like we're seeing all of it cleaning the cum off the back seat.
They're pretty similar movies.
Yeah. Like
honestly.
very much so, but this is far more in line with narrative and things like that. Whereas like Pickpocket is just like a kind of I don't want to say blasé because like I like it. I know you don't like it as much, but I definitely don't like it as much as Taxi Driver. I could see where anyone would find that boring. I could see where anyone would find any of Bresson's movies boring.
A Man Escape, thrilling,
That's a great one.
beginning to end. Guess what? You know how it ends.
L'Argent and Devil Probably are my favorites. And then Alcazar Balthazar too. Brandon, all
We'll get
movies
there.
that you should see.
We'll get there.
He's staring at us with a look of bewilderment.
Well, my
hope you're
first
not
and
listening
only
with one.
question is, who escaped?
A man escaped.
Oh, okay.
A lot of his movies, they're right here on this shelf behind you.
Jesse's gesturing to his shelf. It's it's 10 feet high and 15 feet wide. There's over 100,000 Blu-rays on it. He's pointing to them. He's licking them, and he's got his hands over. What's this director's name?
Robert Bresson.
He's got his hands right over Robert Bresson, and he's fingering the movie that he just told me to watch. That glorious movie. What was the name of the movie?
Pickpocket.
He's fingering Pickpocket right now, and he's like, "This is the movie."
Wait, what's Pickpocket?
Sorry.
Yes.
He's
Pickpocket is a
fingering.
movie by Robert Bresson that I saw for the first time in 1963. And my life was changed.
He literally. That's every interview. Talk
Can't
about how
wait
it
to
changed
show
his
you
life.
after we're done
God,
recording. You're going to
it's
lose your
so
mind.
funny. Just pick one. Pick an interview.
And it's always a question that has nothing to do with that
Usually
at all.
He brings it up. Everybody will be like, "What was your process for writing this film?" Well, you see, I saw Pickpocket.
Well, I mean, hey, think about it this
You
way,
sound
Frank. When
so-
you're on the awards circuit, aren't you just going to want to plug heat in every interview? So, like, think of that's his heat. If Paul Schrader, all right, this is the Paul Schrader podcast. If you don't like Pickpocket, get out now.
You don't even understand the feeling I just felt in my heart. I feel so bad for making fun of Paul Schrader for so long because I am gonna do that with Heat.
Yeah, but at least you'll say he now.
Yeah, well, one day I might be.
Anyway, the idea of the European existential hero being dropped into New York in the 70s, played by Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese.
It's such an edgy name to give to a racist fucking sociopath.
I would call him a honky.
Hey, Travis is explaining Betsy's life to her.
Oh, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I know.
God.
Hey, what? This is what it is. It is what it is.
It is what
You gotta
it
tell
is.
him.
I'm gonna. At the end, I don't care how long we've been going on. I'm reading some of Pauline Kael's review. Important film critic, the one before Roger Ebert, like the most important. She's a woman too. Big deal. Like at the time, it was. I'm sorry, I came out wrong.
She's a woman. It's just the best sentence. The
Alright.
best phrase.
She brought up in her review, not a part that I'm going to read,
Okay.
that what De Niro is doing is a very typical move at the time. Hilarious that he's doing like, I know you're lonely. I know your thing. Apparently that was the move back then.
Interesting. So that's just playing into the other thing of him
That's what
picking
I
up
mean.
on social cues and
Yes.
just taking them,
I
running
was
with them.
just like, wow. That's how much I thought I knew, and it's all just flying over my head because I'm just like, that's just Travis being weird.
Well,
It's like,
I didn't even.
it's him trying to fit in.
I always thought that he was equating it to his life because it just sounds
Yeah.
like he's explaining
Of
his
course.
own existence to her through her.
I think it's both.
We know from having seen his life up to this point that is his existence.
Yeah.
So whether he knows it or not, he's subconsciously venting about how sad his life is,
Yeah. Please connect with me. But his only reason is that she's hot.
or he's attracted to her.
He takes her to a porno, you guys.
Okay, we got it. We're not there, man. we gotta
he
get there.
They fucking talk and he gets the date. He gets
I
the
can't
date
believe
out
that
of
she
nowhere.
says yes either.
I can.
Because, it's a movie. It's got to work.
Well, not when they're at the restaurant.
They're
That's
crazy.
when it gets weird, and that's like right after.
Well, that's when I thought
he
that
picks her back
she-
up at 4. He meets her. He literally, because then I wondered this. He's like, "I'll be here at 4. Okay, I'll see you. I'll come back. I'll be here. You'll be here. Okay." And then it cuts to a shot of him pacing out front. Do you think he just walked out front and just paced?
For 4 hours.
Yeah, man. Like he had.
What
to.
else did he do?
What else did he do? What else is he
I
doing?
thought he drove around.
If he wants.
You know what? In
What
my
he
head,
wants.
in my head, that's scary.
I mean, that's typical Travis behavior in my head.
That would not
If
be weird
you
if they showed
agreed
us.
to go on a date with somebody and then that person walked outside of the building and then paced for 4 hours
Yes, go
waiting
on.
until the date, would you then join them for the date?
No, but this was 1970s, and she was a woman.
No.
I'm just saying, she was
She
probably
was
a
a
little
woman.
scared. Like, I should probably just go on the date. I'm just saying.
Here, I'm
So then
sorry.
they go to this restaurant and
Have the most awkward date.
literally the
in
most
planet
awkward.
Earth.
Well, the most awkward like pre-date. It's a preliminary date.
Is it
kind
weird that
of.
this
It's-
reminded me of When Harry Met Sally? like a fucked up version of it, like where they don't have chemistry?
I've never
Because
seen it.
the way
You've never. Oh, it's a
Go
great
on.
movie.
you've seen the dining scene.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's
Everybody's seen
what
the
I'm
dining
talking
scene.
about.
All right, go on.
Travis
That's the
doesn't
only,
pretend
like,
to come.
date they have in that movie. Rom-coms are stupid.
Sure are, buddy.
You're supposed to get to know somebody before. Now they're married.
In the last 2 minutes. We were always in love. Were you? That's not what I just watched.
But it's like Trev, he ain't got no game. He doesn't know how to talk to people. And to me, it seemed like she knew this, wasn't really giving him a shot, but was just like so entertained by how fucking like wacky he was. But then it seems like it works because like if she was just there to be like, oh, this is a good laugh, she wouldn't have gone on that second date. Like that's what's fucking blowing my mind.
Maybe the thought crossed her mind that this guy's a little different,
Yeah.
and maybe
she says
different's a
that.
good thing.
Doesn't she say, like, I've never met anyone like you?
I've never met anyone quite like you.
Oh, and
Yeah.
like I'm waiting to see if it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And
Because maybe he's just a little weird and then turns out
But
to be
the
a
thing-
total sweetheart.
but okay, I feel like the one thing in that scene that really puts me off is when he's just like, I do not like your friend. He is bad.
Yeah.
Do not talk
Well,
to him.
that's- I-
The
But
he
only
does not
dude
care
he's
about you.
seen.
that's the flirting. I like you, so I don't like that another dude's around. And she's like, oh, haha. She knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of the, like, all right, that's cute.
Well, at least
Am I wrong?
in her head,
It's
it could
because
be.
we know he's terrifying. I'm trying to think from her perspective.
Yeah.
Like, this guy. Think of Neil in Heat.
Yeah.
Why would she go on that date? Because he asks questions and he's cute. And
Yep.
he's like,
She approached him.
I know, but then he's like, why do you care what I read, lady? And he's a dick. And she's just like, oh, sorry.
And
And
then
then
he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. My name's Neil.
yeah. And she's like, all right, water on the bridge. And then she goes to his apartment and there's nothing in it. And she doesn't run. Crazy.
And then we hear some of the best Michael Mann score ever.
Let's just watch Heat. Let's pause this and go watch Heat.
She
Shout out
goes to his
Moby.
empty apartment and just goes like, "Wow, you don't have anything."
Oh shit! Do they go to her apartment?
Do they?
They
I
go to
think
her
they
apartment.
might.
They go to her apartment.
I think they
they
might.
for sure go to her apartment.
No,
because he
'cause when they
comments on
wake
all
up-
of her stuff.
But it's his view.
We gotta go watch Heat again. Sorry,
Yep, sorry,
we'll be
everybody,
back.
We'll be back. Quick pause. A word from our sponsor.
Watch
Give
Heat.
us-
Anyway,
Paid for by Michael Mann. Just kidding, it wasn't. Please don't sue
paid
us.
for Michael Mann. As
Paid
in, like,
for-
we paid
yeah.
for
we
it
gave
for
Michael
you.
Mann money.
That is a plug for you, Mikey.
Mikey, send me an email.
Yeah.
We know you need it, buddy. Come on.
You know, Neil McCauley, he's based on a real life guy.
Neil McCauley is if Texas, if Travis.
Neil McCulley's a Texas, all right? Don't you fucking.
I don't want Santana's Abraxas.
All right,
I'd never asked for Santana's Abraxas.
how did we get here?
You can't speak.
Weed. Don't do
Right,
it.
right. Both very good points. All right. Fucking Neil McCauley is like if Travis Bickle went to jail and then came out and was like, I need a regiment.
I thought you were just going to say if Travis Bickle went to L.A. in the 90s.
Well, that's after jail.
There he
The
was around
age
me.
would line up.
You're not...
Because
Literally.
it's both De Niro.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Okay.
You know what, guys? I quit.
You heard it here first. Heat is a direct sequel to Taxi Driver.
I am losing
Please, no.
my fucking mind.
This is the last thing I thought was going to happen on this episode.
A little known fact is that the cop that finds Travis Bickle at the end of the movie was Al Pacino.
I do want to bring this up now, just to kind of maybe bring us back on track a little bit. It's interesting how De Niro is so bad at playing romantic leads because, like, I mean, like he never really gets the opportunity to do so. And any time that he is operating with a woman on screen, and like the movies that he's best in, they're always like completely alienated from each other, and it's never genuine, and it's always, or at least awkward or stilted in some sense. And I'm curious how New York is going to play.
Well, I don't think De Niro's necessarily this way as a person, but it seems like, especially in Marty movies at the very least, he's always playing like a complete narcissist.
Oh yeah,
in all of them.
Oh God, Casino.
That's
Jesus.
all. It's a person who doesn't care about anything else. It's him, his world, his job usually, and then trying to rise above it. That's Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas. Probably Cape Fear. I haven't seen it.
Cape Fear is ridiculous.
Definitely The Irishman.
I'm ready to see De Niro be the villain.
But
I will say about him being a romantic lead, not necessarily the lead, but in Meet the Parents and in Meet the Fockers, he does play like a lovely grandpa who is a husband, and he's good at playing like I think
his wife.
I don't remember.
In what?
Meet the Parents.
Oh, I can't remember her name either.
Judi Dench.
Oh, stop.
Blythe,
All right.
Blythe Danner.
We're not taking this to Cats.
Blythe,
yet.
you're the one that brought it there, brother.
I did. Anyway.
Judi Dench did a lot.
Meet the Parents, underrated movie.
Betsy sort of ends the conversation by saying a Chris Christopherson quote.
Oh, yeah.
She tells Travis, I believe this is actually directly following the line that I've never met anyone quite like you. You're like the Chris Christopherson lyric.
That's what she said.
He's a prophet and a pusher, a walking there's something in between too, but I know it ends with a walking contradiction. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of the prophet part of that line, Frank, do you have anything you'd like to bring into the fold here as far as thematic work goes and Martin Scorsese's themes?
It's the same as all the other stories. The dude who thinks he knows what's right and what's wrong, and somebody who thinks that they're trapped. This is weird.
A false prophet.
A false prophet. Who thinks they're Jesus, but they're not.
Taking the idea of
understand-
Jesus. They're not actually being
Yes.
represented or held up on that pedestal.
But
they
following-
hold themselves up to that.
Did
pedestal.
you?
Following a similar trajectory of story. I did that in quotes.
Was it Taxi Driver, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore that you were doing the God and Jesus count?
I said during Alice I was gonna do that, and then I forgot.
I thought you started at the beginning, maybe.
It took a while to get to the first one, but that's when it clicked. I'm like, oh, I think he references being similar to Jesus. Am I wrong?
I don't remember specifically
remember
if that
either.
happens. But regardless, that scene ends, and I believe it immediately hard cuts to him at the record store buying the Chris Christopherson record, which we briefly touched on.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Christopherson wasn't Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Which I
Yes.
think is fucking hilarious because I forgot. I was like, oh, he's buying it to go listen to it because I was like, oh, that's what I would do. Like if somebody recommended me music, I would go then listen to it.
Totally.
He bought it for her. It's like, what a fucking idiot. Like, you don't think she has it already? Like,
She did just quote it.
that's
at
what
you.
I'm saying.
She probably knows it.
I was also
And she
confused.
said-
I thought it was for him as well.
That's what I mean. When I saw it, I was like, that's cute. Like in a way, like until it's not.
She's bewildered
Yeah.
when he hands it to her.
Yeah.
Just, I already have it.
She says that later.
Well,
but
after-
when she first
after
gets
the
it,
whole
she's
thing.
like,
Because
oh,
you think at that
thanks.
point, if you're going to get her a gift, it's like, oh, you like Chris Christopherson. I like this person here. You haven't heard this. But that wouldn't work either
He
because
doesn't
Travis
know
is a
anything.
fucking sociopath.
And he doesn't know. He's not a person. He's
No.
just a blank vessel. Feed me the info. I spit it back out because he's a soldier. Well, you guys shouldn't put a mic in front of me.
It's fine. You shouldn't put a mic in front of me either.
The thing about Heat.
You're damn right. You should.
So, this is when do they go right to the date from here? Like
think
the
so.
first,
Let's
because
just
then
talk about it.
yeah, because now we get to some meaty shit.
Takes her to porno.
Well, is that the first thing they do?
That's the only thing they do.
Yeah.
Oh my good god!
They
I guess
dinner,
that
record,
probably all happens
porno.
pretty fast after
Yeah,
that.
I
so
think it's 1, 2, 3.
because he's in the same outfit. He's still in the
I
same
think
fly outfit, so it's all same day.
I think it might be that night.
Well,
Yeah.
it's dinner.
Like there's a break.
Jody.
No, Jody
then
happens
porno.
before.
No, Jody happens in between.
Is that in your notes?
Well, I have he meets the president candidate in the car.
That happens after Betsy.
No.
I thought it did.
Listen, I have Score second date, meets Prez candidate in the car, meets Jody, lets her leave, Chach, Travis is weird. Takes girl to porno theater, shocker, doesn't work out.
Shocker doesn't work out.
Why did you speak up earlier? You're right.
Yeah.
That's definitely
Okay.
right. So we totally did this out of order. You've
Yeah.
probably been screaming it.
Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. Get the chronology of the plot of Taxi Driver correct.
Listen, you fucks, you screw head. Listen to the.
Are you
Cut.
talking to us? Are we
Anyway.
talking to P?
Dude, what?
I'll work
Can we-
anytime, anywhere. Anyway.
I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm like,
Oh, he's like a joint now. What's
don't
going
care.
on?
All right, so listen, they go to the porno theater. It doesn't work out.
Shock.
Well, no, she says
she
this is
goes
a-
in
she
and
says-
she sits down.
He is like not adamant, but he is insisting. He's like, no, trust me, this is a movie. I see couples here all the time. Like this is this is fine.
says,
She's
I
like, this is a
go
dirty
to
movie.
these all the time.
Yeah.
He says he does.
Yeah.
He starts by saying couples, then he says him. And I think his calmness is what makes her go like, maybe it is fine.
Though
Because he's
obviously
acting
a
like
crazy
this
thing.
is normal.
Obviously a crazy thing in real life to do on a first date, like literally insane. But I was
If
saying,
y'all haven't talked about that shit,
I was saying it
what
at the
the
time.
fuck?
I was saying it at the time that to Travis, this makes fucking sense.
That's
like
all he knows.
that's literally all he knows, and he doesn't go to normal movies. Nor does he care, it seems, because they never even bring it up. I think this is one of the rare instances in a Marty movie where maybe, or at least thus far, a movie hasn't been mentioned directly. I guess you do see, shout out to Texas Chainsaw Massacre again, but you do see a marquee that has Texas Chainsaw Massacre up on it at one point. Date does not go well. Betsy dips, and he's like, that line itself, and I think De Niro had to have improv'd it, is when she gets into a taxi and drives off, he's like, I got my own taxi, or something like that.
Like, I can take
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I could have taken you
So
home or
funny.
something. Oh man, it's brutal. And then that's when we get one of the best scenes in the entire movie, if not one of the best moments in Marty's whole career.
Travis looks like a bitch.
And he is on the phone with Betsy, which I'm shocked that she's even like.
It's an answering machine, isn't it?
No, he is definitely. There is breaks, like it's call and response. Like she is talking to him.
You don't hear her voice.
Yeah, it's just seeing him talking
I
on the
always think it was
payphone.
an answering machine.
No. She's indulging him. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening?
Maybe that's why.
She's being nice.
No
like, she
caller
doesn't know-
ID in the 70s.
Yeah. And he's
I
like,
know
you
why
know,
you'd answer.
and I just remember it's the moment that he said, "Did you get my flowers?" That the camera starts tracking to the right, away from Travis, and we're still hearing the conversation on the phone, but we're seeing down a long, narrow, empty hallway with a doorway to the outside, just listening to Travis's pathetic conversation. And as many have profoundly pointed out, that is Scorsese's cinematic way of explaining, "Ooh, I can't look at this anymore."
Yeah.
Now, what really blows my mind here is that you would think, all right, you go on a botched date. Date doesn't work out. You send her flowers. You give her a phone call. That doesn't work out. The phone call clearly lets her know you're not interested. I would like to ask, I being Brandon,
I'm Frank.
Jesse.
I would like to ask you boys, if you guys had just like the worst date ever with a nice lady, would you then show up at her fucking job?
No.
Would you then show up at her fucking job?
Worst date, worst phone call, worst everything.
Would you show up at her fucking job?
No, Brandon.
I only would.
What?
I'm done.
Poor time, poor coffin fit.
If I worked with the person,
And you had to.
had to, or they worked at a movie theater that I frequent.
You'd go to a different theater. I know
For a little
you.
bit.
I
For
know
a little
But
bit.
hey, look,
Eventually you'd go back.
we do not live in a state in which we get all movies
That's
everywhere.
true.
So if it
So,
was like an indie theater that I
freaking
go
Main
that I
Art?
frequent,
The-
yeah,
The main art.
Yeah.
We can say that.
shout out Landmark Main Art
Give us a sponsorship.
plug.
I wonder.
All right. Listen.
I haven't dated any of your employees. For that. I haven't had that issue yet.
Can I say two things?
Yeah.
To call upon Pauline Kael's review real fast.
Once again,
She brought things I all agree with. She says Marty does a lot of showy, expressionistic things, but sometimes shots pulled her out of it because they seem to not really have purpose. They're flashy
I
to be flashy,
kind of agree.
which happens a few times. But then she brings that up, and this is before people have studied it for 40 years, and said it suddenly becomes an Antonioni movie. Antonioni movie. God, I do that every
That's
time.
interesting.
And it is.
The ending.
Yeah, and she's
Oh
like, so
my
suddenly
God.
he's warring with, so it's that, The Searchers, and Bresson. It's like those, John Wayne. I
You
don't know why.
blew my mind.
Pauline Kael blew your mind.
Pauline Kael blew my mind.
I
Credit where credit is
Mine
due.
too. I can't believe they made the movies with that dude.
Oh man.
Other thing I want to say, to clarify, I feel like we're hitting this, like,
We're
the
hitting-
narrative of Travis as this lonely man who doesn't understand things completely, is removed from society, all these things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make, like, you can understand it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make you exactly sympathize.
Yeah.
Because he's not actually trying. I just want to make that almost clear. It's like, we can understand that. It doesn't make it good.
Yeah, no.
None
Hey,
of it's...
real quick, because you brought it up, Brandon didn't understand. I want to explain briefly Michelangelo Antonioni to you.
Make it quick.
He is a Italian filmmaker, operated most prominently in the 60s, but made films through the 70s, 80s. even
Okay.
90s, 2000s, 50s. But very famous for making very existential, hollow character studies of hollow being like hollow people.
Yes.
But the films were always very beautiful as far as the cinematography was concerned and all that. And I brought up the ending thing because all of his films have I don't know if any filmmaker ends movies better than he does. All of the
You ever
endings
seen
of his
Michael
movies, I've seen Michael Clayton.
All right, continue.
I've also seen
A
Heat.
compelling argument.
Both
of those.
Every one of Michelangelo Antonioni's movies I've seen, even the ones that I'm not that big a fan of, great endings. All of them.
It's just something that's always out of left field. The last thing you ever think would happen, but also the only thing that makes sense.
Have we talked about, you lumped that in when we watched Blow Up years ago
Ooh.
when you first saw it.
Some sauce on the
Taxi
pod.
Driver?
Yeah, you were like, it's the
Pod.
same thing. There will be blood. Taxi Driver. They're all the fucking same.
They are.
You were like, he's just one of them.
He is.
Being David Hemmings in Blow Up,
Yeah.
a Michelangelo Antonioni movie.
They're gross people you get close with because you can understand it, but you're supposed to be able to reflect back.
Yeah.
At it.
Good time.
Uncut Gems.
Way more empathy in those movies, though.
I don't
Not
know
in
about
Uncut
Good Time.
Gems.
Nice. That's what you like.
What?
We said the other movie. We each said the other one.
So you said not in Good Time, and you said not in Uncut Gems?
I'd say not in Uncut Gems. There's not a lot of empathy there.
And I'd say there is, but I'd say in Good Time there's not a lot of empathy there. If strictly talking about Connie and Howie.
And I'm in the middle. I think they both.
Connie and Howie.
Connie and Howie
I,
specifically.
I know Connie only gets by.
The pure always act.
Connie only gets by because of his brother. But
Yes.
like Howie,
That's
what does
an
Howie
excuse.
get? What does Howie get by?
You think Connie really cares about his brother Brandon?
What does Howie care about?
Howie,
Money.
Money.
Julia.
Nothing.
I think he does
He
care
doesn't-
about. I think. He
Oh my
cares about
god.
I think
He cares about Julia until another battered bitch with a bigger ass and another tattoo came along.
you. No, I don't know, man.
There's nothing. Oh my god.
He
I don't
holds
know.
he holds on pretty tight, and then even in the scene where she's gone,
He
like
slapped
no,
a
man.
smoothie on her.
dude, the scene. Okay, this is got to be the briefest aside we do, but this has
Because
fucking
you've
gone on
never
so long.
been upset at someone, and you're also crazy.
Yeah, you're literally insane.
That's his way of like shouting.
Dude, the scene in which he goes back to the apartment after he kicked her out in Uncut Gems. Spoilers for Uncut Gems. Heads up.
Be careful. No, don't do it.
what?
That's the one I want to say no. People might watch that.
Skip ahead 2 minutes from now.
No.
By
no.
2 minutes from now, you will not be hearing about Uncut Gems anymore.
Fine,
Ready?
2 minutes.
3,
You've
2,
been
1.
warned.
Skip. When he goes back to the apartment and fucking Madonna's playing on the stereo.
He's very
And
sad.
he's so sad. He is so sad. You
True.
can see it all over his face. He's
Yes.
like, what did I do?
What I want to say is, just
I'm
because
so sad. I'm so fucked
See,
up.
but when I
because
look
we
at
know
that,
it's wrong.
yeah.
You and I, me, Frank.
I'm Jesse.
Am I Brandon?
Yes, and
You
I'm
gotta
Frank.
be nicer to me.
It's his way of showing he cares.
This is how
We know it's wrong.
I win.
I'm not saying it's good,
I know.
but
I know.
that's how they communicate.
The way that it
And
translated to
it's
me.
love.
It's
even
very similar
up
to
until-
Phantom Thread.
Up until this moment, the way that moment always translated to me was like, I don't have anything to fuck. Like, that was the only thing I had. Like, my wife, we're getting a divorce. What am I getting a divorce for?
He
oh,
does
no.
try to get back with his wife.
And then she
That's
says
probably
no.
to make her
and then
upset.
he gets beat up. And then he gets crying. And then she finds him. And he's like, ah,
It's
yes.
attaching to someone.
I think
Someone.
how-
I don't think she mattered, but I liked her character. And I liked their rapport. But, like, I think that Howie was more than ready to drop
I think
her.
that when she took the money for him, I think that's when
All
he
right, we
knew.
have no more spoiler talk. It's been 2 minutes.
All right. Anyway,
I just was asking you guys if you would show up to the girl's job after she had a
No.
terrible
No.
day with you.
That's
and
how this
he does.
happened?
That's how it all started. Because he goes back and he confronts her. And immediately the guy who stabs Ryan Gosling comes in and he's like, hey, you got to get out of here. And De Niro just like he snaps. He's like, don't you touch me. And then he
Yeah.
gets in the weirdest fighting stance. Like,
Sure
are you
does.
sure
Like
you
Bruce
served?
Lee.
You sure you served in the Marines, buddy? You're leaving all sorts of weird openings for yourself.
he looks like a meme. Like somebody
Yeah.
pulled out their cell
Oh,
phone
yeah.
and a guy like fucking karate chopped at a dude like sincerely in a fight.
Yes.
And people would think that shit was hilarious now.
Hot take.
It's unhinged mental illness.
He's
you
probably-
idiots. You fucking
You
savages.
just don't get it. That's why you voted for Parasite.
Goddamn millennials.
Anyways, Frank.
He was probably a shitty soldier, was all I was going to say. He got shot, honorably discharged. Probably didn't even get that far in. He probably doesn't have PTSD or anything.
No.
Like, I think that's a common thing attributed to this movie, is
Yeah.
that he's suffering and doesn't know what he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I've always been like, good, I buy that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Maybe he was just a dipshit, and he just fucking didn't even form past like basic training. So he's not a fighter. He's not a killer, and he just got hurt and then shipped off. And he's like, now I don't know what to do, and he's just adrift. Hot take: Travis Bickle's a fucking moron.
Hot take.
I don't know if
Travis
that's-
Bickle just
that's
fucks
not-
up his
that's
whole
not hot
life.
It's not that hot.
And that's why he's got to be the hero.
That is
That's
the
why he's
take.
got to finally do something.
He has
Because he
something
could
to
never
prove.
serve. We did it.
Marty, be proud.
We did it. We
Anyway.
cracked the code.
All right. He
So,
breaks,
but I
he
think that
breaks
is-
the door and they leave.
That is the moment. Oh,
breaks
also,
the
this is
door?
where fucking
Yeah, he
man.
breaks the
What is up
door.
with Martin Scorsese and breaking glass doors?
He likes to wear the glass shatters. It's dramatic. Gabagool.
That is a thing with him. He loves glass doors shattered.
Also, who?
Do you?
Martin Scorsese. This is the point that we were talking about earlier, where I think Travis betrays the audience in the sense that there is no
100%.
room for you to be like, oh, this guy is somebody I should be rooting for.
Even like you're right. That's the final straw. I
Because
think
it's stacking up.
And I think that
The
you
whole
really,
time
you
you're like,
really
I get
see
you.
how insane he
Yes,
is
yes,
in that
yes.
scene.
The whole time I think you're leaning like, all right, like I think I get you. Like I definitely don't like you, but unfortunately, I do see where these things are coming from to an extent.
If we haven't said it already, De Niro is a fucking brilliant
great.
actor.
Dude's
like,
great.
so good in this.
Hottie
Absurdly good. It's like I know that Irishman is like probably my favorite performance from him, but like this is just insane. Like at
don't
least at
know.
the time, this defines this generation De
Bruh.
Niro probably.
I'm telling you,
What?
it might be Godfather 2.
I gotta see it again, man.
Me too.
Soon,
I'd rather see all the Godfathers.
Soon.
I haven't seen them.
coming
Bruh.
soon.
If
coming
we don't
soon.
do,
Special episode.
yeah,
just
don't
something
do
like the
Coppola.
series.
Do the 3 Godfathers.
Okay, I'm with it. Let's do that just so we can do it soon, please.
And then we'll watch Heat
Between directors,
3 times, and we'll talk
3
about
heats. The 3 heats.
This is just a Heat podcast.
A
No.
3 heat.
it. Okay, wait. Actually, though, if we did do only 3, Manhunter, Miami Vice, Heat, not in that order.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. Those are the 3 we'd watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, we've done that before. It was great.
Yes.
Yeah, we do that again, and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't even
This
do
summer,
Michael
1 year,
Mann.
every year. We do it annually. We find what dates we did it. We do
We
it
should
every
only
year.
do one.
What?
One Michael Mann movie every year.
What?
All 3?
All 3 every
We'd get
year.
bored.
No, we wouldn't. What are you talking about? Once a year?
If we
all in a
agreed
row,
not to
it's like
watch
a-
them again,
Yeah. I
fucking fiends.
could.
I'm looking at you both.
I have to watch
I-
so many movies. Hola, chico.
Hola, chica.
God, it's so good. You
My mommy and
guys,
daddy
do you
know me.
understand?
Yes.
It's fine. You're allowed to hate it. You're allowed to hate Miami Vice.
We
Miami Vice is
love
the exception.
vulgar
We do get
tourism.
it.
You're wrong, but it's all right.
Okay.
It's like
You
we
can stay.
understand.
So Travis
We don't
now is
agree.
crazy. And I think at this point we fucking
This is when he goes full tilt.
and this is when we
Full
go
hog.
this is when we go full hog and we dance through this plot like it's fucking butter. Okay?
All right, listen.
So
After this, Scorsese gets in the car. And
Sassy.
drops I did say. I said Sassy.
It was
Scorsese.
mumbled. I don't know.
All right,
Rules
Scorsese
out.
hops in the cab. Apparently, this was unplanned. Originally, it was going to be another dude, but the other dude decided he wasn't racist and didn't show up. Am I right?
oh, this is this scene? Great.
Yeah, it happens right
okay.
after.
So here we go. Martin
It's a
Scorsese
fuel on the fire.
Martin
Everything becomes fuel
Scorsese
on the fire.
has to fill in for an actor that doesn't show up on the day and play a racist psychopath that enters Travis's cab.
That sparks the idea of murder
Yeah.
as a solution.
Do you think that that's what does it? Or do you think
That's
it's
the
already in his
first
head?
time it's talked
Everything,
about.
everything's a mirror, dude.
You're right.
Everything.
It's a funnel. Yeah,
He
you're right.
just
Okay.
literally.
He literally asked for a 44 Magnum. I wrote it down.
Yes.
No,
Because
I
the
know. I
guy
said that
brought it
that
up.
day. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
that day. He's like, "What about the 44 minute?"
But this is where the idea is. Hey, I have a problem with a woman. I must kill.
Yep.
That's De Niro becomes
Fucked.
De Niro's new problem.
And the way he looks
Oh
in the
my
mirror
God.
too, it's
Yeah,
like
because
it's like a light bulb's going off in his head. Now that I look back.
He
That-
fucking
Didn't he angle it like that?
yeah.
Yeah.
And he,
He like frames the rearview mirror to see him too.
Betsy to get to her. It's Palantine.
Yep.
Later, when Betsy's no go, it's Iris, and whose Iris is? It's Sport.
Sport.
That's it. It's so annoying.
Crazy.
It's a good,
Literally.
good movie.
He's so annoying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just that clicked. Like, oh, that's why you're doing the things, and it's all. This is the impetus. I think it's appropriate
Wait,
that it's
who's
Scorsese.
Iris?
Scorsese.
Iris is Jodie Foster.
Oh.
Scorsese.
I have her not on
Scorsese.
Jody.
God.
What is Iris's
Easy.
Hooker name, Easy.
Oh yeah, the 12-and-a-half-year-old name.
Yeah. Also,
Nickname's
Jodie
Easy.
Foster, just to say it out front, great in
Amazing.
this film.
And she, scary good.
Scary good.
Like,
Very good.
like I was the most uncomfortable. Well, Frank.
Just for the sake of
just-
brevity,
I- Any
have
word
some
could've
faith-
ca-
have some
any
faith-
word
have
just
some
came out of
fu-
your mouth,
have
man.
some
I don't know.
faith in your boy. Uncomfortable.
Jodie Foster talks very
Corey.
fondly of the experience.
Stop.
It did not harm Jodie Foster in any way.
She okay. Good.
Yeah,
Wait,
didn't
I
you
have
say
a
they
thing.
swapped it out for like an older woman's hands?
Well, it was her
for that
sister,
scene.
right?
Yeah. For that scene, her sister was a stunt double. A lot of people obviously brought up like concern because she's 12-and-a-half in real life,
Yeah.
playing a 12-and-a-half-year-old. She was
so
that young.
crazy.
She was 12 and a half. I thought she was 15 or something.
No,
which
that's
is not
when it
better.
Came out, I think.
She's just an incredibly
I
good
don't know.
actor.
Yeah, that young. But she said years later she confessed how uncomfortable the treatment of her character was on set. Scorsese, God, I just doesn't sound right. Did not know how to approach different scenes with the actress. The director relied on Robert De Niro to deliver his directions to the young actress. Foster often expressed how De Niro, in that moment, became a mentor to her, stating that her acting career was highly influenced by the actor's advice during the filming of Taxi Driver.
Wow.
Good job, De Niro.
Good job, Bobby D. Bad
Yeah.
job,
Jodie-
Martin.
Yeah.
I don't know how to direct a kid. Ah, fuck. I gotta go. Bobby, you do it. I gotta go do some lewds.
Yeah, I gotta go do a couple lewds. The Batroom.
Now I don't actually know much about Jodie's career in her adult life. Is it active?
2-time Oscar winner.
Did you pull the Shallows out of my Blu-ray shelf? Why is it just hanging?
Why do you own The Shallows of Blake Lively?
It's a good movie.
I believe it.
Is it a good movie?
It's certified fresh, bitch. Says it right on the case.
Rotten
For the
Tomatoes
first
isn't
and
always
only
right.
time that has come in handy.
Hell yeah.
Until Tenacious D gets
Literally the
rated
only
certified
time.
fresh, I don't believe in Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, okay. Anyway,
We
It
gotta
doesn't
know
have
now.
good. It doesn't have good ratings.
Ooh, 53%. Almost there.
yeah, not quite.
60 would make it fresh.
Really? That's a low bar.
I think like 85 makes it certified.
Oh.
Yeah. Shallows is good, man. We should watch it sometime.
That's
right.
like the fucking Martin scene.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Gives
drops a
them the
couple
ideas.
in bombs. He gives them the idea. He gives them the idea of what it
does.
needs to be said.
I know. It's just like, right, we're back in it.
Martin Scorsese gives a great performance here, and that's what makes it so
He's
upsetting.
scary.
Yeah.
He says some words and he plants the idea of murder into Travis Bickle's head.
Yes.
Fast forward, they're now back at the diner with the taxi boys,
Yes.
and Travis is disassociating. Big shocker.
Oh, and this is when
He
he
tries
talks
to talk about it.
Wizard, played by Peter
But,
Boyle.
yeah, he gets Wiz. He goes for some advice. I actually wrote down the only like good thing that I think he says is we're all fucked more or less. It's just like, yeah, man, we all
Yeah.
got our own shit. You just gotta learn how to deal with it. Let's keep it moving.
I
Yep.
do think it's important that at the lowest of low to Travis, and from his perspective, he literally tries to talk about it with somebody. He's like, I need help. And this dude's like, I literally don't know what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
Let me give you this broad advice.
Yeah.
And Travis is like, okay, good. We're all fucked. So I can be fucked. I don't
Yeah.
know. Gotta kill.
But that's where De Niro gives this insanely, like, the way he delivers the line of this, that I have bad thoughts in my head.
I think
like,
it's the
that's
best
like literally
acting in the
so
movie.
good. So good.
Scary.
Scary.
Yeah.
Sad.
And then is it
Both.
that same
I don't
scene in
know.
which black people walk past him and he shoots that look?
Yeah.
That shit is it's
Don't
searing.
Gross.
Don't like.
He's
Yeah.
a lot.
Scary.
Another little jump. He drives past fucking Betsy's place, sees two cups, gets upset. Then he runs into Jodie again, and it's a little bit longer of a run-in this
well,
time.
he follows her.
He just
right?
follows her around.
Yeah, watches her.
He can't even get the prostitutes, you guys.
Oh, that's right. He can't even get a
That's
prostitute.
so funny.
Yeah.
That's just funny.
Yeah.
Because he's creepily following them instead of asking.
Yeah.
He wants them to come up because he doesn't know what to do. And then they are like, this guy's fucking weird. And they walk up to two random dudes and go like, hey, we're hanging out now. And they're like, oh, cool.
12-year-old. Nice.
God.
No.
And then De Niro drives away sulkingly.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
very sad. A little bit of callback earlier in one of the scenes where where De Niro's hanging out with the other taxi guys. One of them does offhandedly ask if he's got a gun, and if he doesn't, he knows how to
knows
get him one.
Mhm.
It was a very
Yeah.
small thing, but I remembered it because right after he does this weird follow up with Jody, we get like all the gun porn you need.
The
Like,
deal?
It seems so random to me how intimate this scene is with the gun, like out of nowhere, and it's like, oh yeah, this, which kind of could indicate that he did more in the army than we think. His fetishization of weapons and stuff like that, because you can tell, like, I don't know, it seemed like almost sexual.
Yeah.
when he was like alone with the guns.
Just a real quick annotate the time here and fast forward many episodes to the Irishman podcast to a certain time in that podcast in which we will be discussing this again. Anyway,
What?
we're going to talk about this scene again when we talk about the Irishman. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Well, hello to our future selves.
That voice.
I'm just really confused. But
What, am I not allowed to be goofy?
No, I was just like, is this from the Irishman?
I don't remember the scene.
All right. Oh, because the 38.
Yeah.
So,
And the
yeah.
way it's laid out on the
Yeah.
table and
Yeah,
all that other
I
shit,
get
too.
it. Oh, I get it. It definitely seems more fetishy.
Oh, it's way more
in this
fetishistic
one.
here.
So it's a
More
dude.
calculated
He basically is like, hey, you want these? Like, I got these guns. Take your pick. You got to pay for them. And
Also
know,
one of the best parts of the movie.
it's. I mean, it's
The actor.
It's cool. It's
That
cool.
guy's good.
I think he was a real gun and drug dealer, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he
Wait,
was like
really?
I'm pretty sure he was a real dude.
Yeah,
not
I
an
love the way he
actor.
talks with the cute little gun. A pretty little gun.
You're definitely tapped into something that I think Pauline Kael fucking brought up, but I don't remember exactly where she talks about the violence is his only sexual thing he does in the movie.
Oh.
Because the ladies don't work. So
Yeah,
it
it's the
turns
only
to violence.
expression.
It's bad.
Real bad.
She talks about it's a
Psychopath.
horror movie.
It's a horror movie.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna read it. It's good. Not
It's
yet.
Crazy. You don't know at this point like much about like Travis's financial situation, but after the scene, I knew he was fucking loaded. And it's like,
He
yeah,
doesn't spend his
because
money
he
on
doesn't
anything.
do shit. He buys like every type of gun that you end up seeing him like talk about and pick up and
And a
load and shit.
holster.
He buys it all.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
spends,
I will have all your guns.
like the next 35 minutes of the movie just training.
Bruh, I forgot my notebook today. I wrote down how much the guns were.
Damn.
I think it was a little under $2,000. Casually, it's just like, yeah,
I mean, all
the
he
guns.
buys is probably rent at his place and bread and alcohol. That's
Yeah.
like fucking all he eats.
All right, just a quick thing. I discovered a new website just now, the Internet Movie Firearm Database.
Oh, God.
Excuse me.
I think it's a website for every time guns are talked about in movies.
Do you think it's made by gun enthusiasts? Because I would have to
Yes.
assume. Okay.
that is what this is?
So not a plug, but a
because
plug.
the scene is listed by the gun. I was just trying to look up if the internet did this for me. Like, how much
You
did you
guys-
pay? Found a whole new website. That is freaking me out.
Right.
It's making me feel weird. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
For some
So
reason,
then
I
he gets all the
imagine that
guns.
being red, but I know it's not based on the glow.
But he doesn't just train with the guns. He like creates makeshift fucking.
It's like a, okay.
machines. Well, and
If,
also
if our
like,
viewers have played Assassin's Creed, think of the hidden blade. He flicks his wrist and a
retractable.
gun comes out.
going back to the cowboy thing again now
Oh,
too.
yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, big time.
And this is where we start getting his scenes of him talking in the mirror and shit with the iconic "you talking to me," which we've already alluded to. And then this is when he decides to venture to a Palantine event
Yeah, also one of the best scenes in the movie.
Geared up though, like
where
geared up.
he like interrogates Secret Service.
I
Does
thought
he
that
have his gun
yeah,
on?
he had everything on him.
The
At
way
this
he shakes his hands.
at
weird.
this point, I thought
So
that
yeah, the
like,
way he's holding his arms, the whole scene is
yeah,
insane.
I thought that this was like gonna be it, but he's just like hamming it up with the Secret Service guy,
he's
and
trying to get intel.
that's it. Doesn't do it well. Doesn't learn shit at all. Just basically makes small talk with this man who eventually gets tired of him.
But not like a normal human does.
No.
He starts out by standing next to the guy and not saying anything for at least a minute.
And just smiling and like nodding. No,
Yep.
he doesn't smile. He doesn't smile.
He does at
sm-
some point.
No, he smiles when he realizes that just standing there is weird. He's like, ah, yes, this is the
And
thing.
his smile is so scary.
So bad.
And then he gets him to follow him somewhere.
yeah, 'cause he's like, I
he's
saw someone
suspicious.
suspicious.
He's trying to pull him away.
Yep.
That's when I thought I was like, oh, he's gonna fucking shank this dude.
And he gives him a crazy
Scorsese
ass
likes his
fake,
stabbings. I was waiting for some stabbing to happen.
crazy ass fake name.
I don't remember.
We get a
what it
stabbing
was.
later. Fucking yeah, he gives him a fake name, fake address, and then he gives him a zip code that is like 1 digit too long. He's a fucking moron
And then he
yet
goes,
again.
I was thinking my telephone number.
Yeah.
Like,
What?
okay,
And then
sure.
as soon as he leaves, the Secret Service agent comes over. And I don't know, did we mention that he was inquiring about being in
yeah.
the Secret Service?
Because he wanted to know what kind of guns they had, what kind of he was going to go up against. He's planning. This is him
That's right.
actively planning the shooting against Palantine.
Yeah.
That's what it reveals itself to be.
But is this where we now transition to Iris?
Is this
No,
when
he
goes?
saves the liquor store first.
Oh, this scene is
Shoots the
very
fucking-
important. Very important.
It
So
is-
complicated.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. It blows my goddamn mind, and I know that's why Sassy did it, and I know that's why whoever the guy you said is the writer did it to make it just a little bit more convoluted. This is the only scene in the movie that I'm like actually like struggling with, where I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't get it, and it's upsetting me.
Because he's at the store buying groceries, and then the store starts to get robbed, and then he shoots the guy robbing the store, and he's black, and then he leaves.
Before he
The
shoots
guy
him,
lets him go.
he says, "Hey, he doesn't use a slur. He says, "Hey, something." So the guy looks at him in the face, and then he shoots him in the head.
No, I'm pretty sure he
They do
might
it.
No, I
just
think
say
he just says,
hey.
hey.
He doesn't. Oh, okay.
I think he just goes, hey, and the guy turns, and then he shoots him in the head.
Yep.
Crazy.
Or shoulder blade or
Yeah, because I
something.
think the guy might have been alive. I don't know if he died.
Yeah, because then the shop owner starts beating him up.
The literal shit out of him.
Yeah.
And a very
You know,
classic Scorsese, like grabbing the coat rack and beating the shit out of somebody in the front of a store scene.
I think this isn't...
Shout out to The Departed.
Shout out. We'll get there. I love it. It's so fucking good. We'll get there.
That scene is
I
terrible.
think the point of the scene is if Travis was truly trying to do something heroic, that should have given him his fill. He legitimately did something heroic. Store's being robbed. He intervened. Jesus.
But I think if anything, that just fed his bloodlust.
Right, and that shows his true nature. It's not about doing something
Yeah.
clearly heroic.
Oh.
It's he wants to kill for revenge.
Thank you. You just saved Scorsese's life. Let me call off the boys. Guys, we're good.
But then, so it almost does make it feel like it's more fueled by hatred. It's the city attacking. To him, it fuels the like vigilante.
Yeah.
I need to do
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
See,
Like,
And
this
it's
isn't
like,
enough.
No, oh no, that's not. Take the hero
Travis.
because he wouldn't be known for it.
So then after this sequence is when we get Iris.
Oh, it's notoriety. Unregistered gun. He had to run. Nobody would know he was a hero.
Cue up David Bowie's fame.
Betsy needs to know he's a hero. Right. That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's all about Betsy, baby.
Dude, that's
Right,
what we're
right, right.
alluding to the
I
thing that we
know,
talked
it's
about
all-
after we finished it, man.
I don't remember.
That the ending is a little more definitive in like
Oh, yes, yes,
nature
yes,
than
yes,
I
yes,
think we used to think.
So yeah, he saves the
Now we
liquor
get to
store.
Iris.
Yep.
He splits. It's a little bit of him in the apartment watching a soap opera.
Oh,
being
wait a minute.
all-
Hold on.
Hold up. I'm gonna get
Before he watches the soap opera,
You get a
we
fur.
we
You
did
get a
not
fur.
mention
You get a
the
fur.
scene that hit me harder than any other scene in the movie, but the Late for the Sky sequence. Him watching, because me and Frank both were like, oh, this is the scene where he smashes the TV.
And it wasn't.
It's not. It's a very extended sequence of Jackson Brown's Late for the Sky.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah,
needle
yeah.
drop.
The one
This
needle
is an important thing to note because I said that going in and I was like, I don't think there's a single needle drop in this movie.
When you guys say needle drop, do you mean literally? Like you can hear a needle drop on a record or
No,
something?
the needle drop just means like the and cue up the Stones, like Scorsese's classic pop song queuing up to play over a sequence that will like
The mini music video.
iconic. Like all those sequences in his films are what make his style to a lot of people.
Where the movie is being choreographed to the song, I
Yeah.
think is generally when the term needle drop gets applied, which is what Scorsese.
Yeah, like think about when
Scorsese?
Drive.
Sassy.
Boy,
Think
anytime
about when
he does
Drive
it.
goes to Night Call, the opening credits. That's a needle drop.
Oh yeah. Okay,
That's
I get it.
That's a hardcore needle drop.
That is a good needle drop.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. In Place Beyond the Pines, ever get lonely? Does that count?
Yeah, but it's usually a pop song. It's like a known song as a part of the needle drop.
But
It's not
Must
music
Get Lonely.
for the. Yeah, that
But-
is a needle drop.
God.
Who'd you fucking
The-
die?
the song quickly,
Now you can go on.
Late for the Sky.
Late for the
Jackson
Sky,
Brown.
Jackson Brown.
And it looks like they're playing some 70s dance show. But what
There's
I
a lot
find
of black people
and
at first when they
yeah,
show it.
yeah,
Soul
no,
Train?
it's almost
probably
like
Soul
all
Train.
black people. But see, that'd be interesting because
turns to
Jackson
white at
Brown
the
would
end.
never have been on Soul Train.
I don't think it was Soul Train.
I couldn't tell if that was music not playing diegetically over just Travis watching a video. It has nothing to do with it. But the way he stares at the black people on the television, like both you and I, Frank, talked in
I'm
that
Frank.
moment. I'm Jesse.
Brandon.
About how that was like the look of pure
Hatred.
rage and
Yeah.
hatred in
Yeah.
his eyes. But then when you listen to the song that's playing, it contradicts what's going on so intensely. And the lyrics that are in that song, at least in that scene, the like, how long have I been sleeping? How long have I been drifting alone through the night? Playing into that lonely thing where it's like that idea in and of itself is sad, but when you apply something like Travis to it,
Right.
it morphs this whole
But
other dark.
he is connecting it to that same way, but for himself.
And then there's that random shot in the video where the camera's zooming in on an empty pair of shoes on the dance
I
floor.
don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like that, had a little something to say there. But anyway, to then bring up, he does end up watching a soap opera in which he kicks the television over.
Is that not the same thing as everything or a thing we've been talking about? The misunderstanding and using it as like a protagonist to look to connect with whatever. Travis is doing that in the movie.
Yeah.
By listening to that song. He's connecting it in the negative way because you can make it fit to your own story.
Yeah, well, it's the same way Manson took Helter Skelter.
You can interpret it however you want.
Yep.
You're going to make it your truth.
When
Yeah.
life hands you lemons, kill a politician.
Well, it's the Clockwork Orange, Singing in the Rain.
Oh, baby. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Kicks the
So,
TV.
kicks
Kicks TV out, smashes it, and that
Talks
starts
to
off
Iris.
a new break for Travis,
We
like a new level of
meet
mental insanity.
Kai Tao.
We meet
Pretty
Sport.
much right after. I don't know
Yep,
if there's
cool.
any bullshit in between. That's the next, definitely most important thing. They have some weird, street talk banter where it's like,
So
yeah, you want a cherry pop? I'll take a cherry pop and a popsicle, lollipop, whatever. Not like that coded, but
Yeah.
it's coded speak where he buys 15 minutes with Jodie Foster.
Yes.
Iris.
Yep.
Isis?
And he keeps asking him if he's a cop, and he calls him killer.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
it. He's another points a gun at him. I think
Yep.
finger guns.
Okay, killer. Because he's got that vibe.
Also,
Everyone knows.
Keitel finally, he's, been in almost all the fucking Scorseses.
Yep.
Finally knows how to act.
Yep.
Oh, he's
It's
incredible.
great.
Well, you're saying finally, or
I'm okay. Alice doesn't live here
serious?
anymore is great. His performance is great. Alice doesn't live here anymore. But
But
only
this
when he
feels
explodes.
Yeah.
Only when he explodes am I really you got me.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
No, this
I'm
is
like,
incredible.
"Ugh, you're doing what you're
He's
doing.
great here.
But him, this is you're being a character. You're
And
acting. I love it.
I'm pretty sure he was supposed to play another character in the
The
movie.
Albert Brooks character.
Yeah, that's right. He was supposed to be a way bigger part. And he was like, no,
Who's
I want the
Albert
pimp.
Brooks?
He said that in the making of.
The Betsy's boyfriend, not boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh, I could see him doing that.
The
And
guy
he
who
probably
stabbed
wouldn't
Ryan
have-
Gosling. I'm
Probably
sorry.
wouldn't have done good.
Well, Scorsese at that point, other than Alice doesn't live here anymore, kind of had been using him as the romantic lead.
Yeah.
Except
Well,
for
even that kind of is half, and then he explodes. He's using him in the same
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
role. That's what I mean.
Right.
That's his and
He's in every movie. He's making him sleazier and sleazier.
Yes, and he is almost the romantic interest to Iris,
Stop it.
yeah,
which is
That's illegal.
yes,
they're operating in the same sense.
Yes.
In Travis's mind. Yeah.
the pimp and the prostitute relationship, bro.
Yeah. So this is when he goes upstairs and talks to Iris, and
Yeah,
she
I can save
introduces
you.
herself as Easy, but then gets her to say her name is Iris.
Yeah,
That's a nice name.
and then he tries to talk her out of prostituting.
Yeah, and then does the same thing. Meet me for lunch.
Yep.
Does the same thing.
Yes.
She's the
He
new
bought
Betsy.
time with the prostitute and then made lunch plans with her.
And she's like, sure, whatever.
That's he had to get in. He had to
And
find
it's
his way in. He had to explain her life to her again.
What are the-
Literally the exact same fucking thing. Mirrored images. The ending is so goddamn good. We're gonna get there.
What are the rules to being a prostitute? Because
Okay.
she got beat up earlier in the film. She got beat. She got beat for
Yeah.
trying to take a taxi. Then she's back and she's cool. But then she's also allowed to go on lunch dates with dudes.
She's allowed to go do
probably
what she
doesn't
wants
know.
sometimes. Yeah, he doesn't know about it.
Either one of those.
Do you think it's interesting also that she takes toast with jelly on it and then pours sugar all over it, just like Travis, and he's like judging the shit out of her in that
Yeah.
scene. And it's like, dude, you're eating the exact same shit he does or she does.
Well, I think
Fuck.
she's also the first character in the movie where he is comfortable with placing himself above
And you know what's even weirder,
her.
Yeah.
funnier, alluding to the line? She says something similar to Sybil Shepherd. She says, "I don't know who's weirder, you or me."
That's
Oh, the
funny.
parallels are disgusting.
Yeah, it's now that I'm really thinking about it in depth. Woo! This is insane.
This is where my notes stop, by the way. I think I literally was just like, I gotta just watch this
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
So
The last thing I wrote
Well,
down is that she made a note that Iris and Scooter, what's his name? Sport. Iris and Sport are both Libras, and that's why they get along. That's the last note I wrote.
And
And I was
then-
like, that's weird.
I think the next scene is the dream sequence, aka when we break from Travis's perspective.
Well, but see, they all say that's when we break from Travis's perspective, but the scene starts on Travis's eyes
Yes.
staring at the building, and then we
Yes.
see a shot that we'd already seen before in the movie in which it's De Niro entering the building.
Yes, he's imagining Sport and
He's watching them.
Iris together. Right, he's watching in his mind.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to see it. He has the
And
justification.
the way, and I even said the way Keitel is talking to Jodie Foster is
Mm-hmm.
similar to the way that De Niro talks to women in the movie. It's fucking insane.
but it's the him keeping her because when he does see her, is that before the lunch date?
No,
because
I don't
then
think so.
no, I think it is because then when he sees her, she's like, "I'm not leaving," and he's like, "I thought you were gonna leave." That happens.
No,
That's a
that
part
happens
of
in the hotel room.
the hotel's first. And
No, but I
then they
think
go
that
to
that's
lunch.
I think that's what because that scene justifies her or him like going in there and killing him because he's got to
I
save
know.
her because he's like no
Because he tried to talk her out of it. And then I think he imagines that, and then she tells him she stayed.
I will concede just because I can't say for sure, but
I'm
regardless.
pretty confident that it's their scene together in the room, and then it's the dinner, and then it's her and Keitel in the
Another
thing.
point that I needed
Okay.
to make that I just remembered. This is the scene in which Keitel and all that, the dream sequence that we're all alluding to. And another point to
Oh,
that
the score.
is that we were like, oh, another needle drop. Literally, because Keitel goes over to put a record down, and it's the fucking score. It's a perfect moment for Scorsese to put in a bullshit 50s pop song.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, he uses the score.
Because it's Travis's imagination. He has to score it in his mind.
Yeah.
And you're watching his movie.
It's fucking nuts.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty fucking good.
Pretty well made.
Anyway.
At the very least.
Yeah. So this is when we get to the real nitty gritty.
Following
This is when he's prepping for doomsday, basically,
Yeah.
and he's writing his suicide note and all that other crazy
his
shit.
manifesto. It's not a suicide.
Yeah,
note,
his manifesto.
There's
It's
a
a
difference.
manifesto. No, it's a manifesto. You're right. We didn't even talk about the jump cut scene whenever that happened.
You shit. You
fucks. But
and he says it twice.
yeah,
It's weird because his mind is breaking.
yeah, and he's rehearsing.
Yeah.
He's got to do it again.
Right. Because it's not real.
He's prepping for doomsday, or like basically the equivalent to, and then he goes.
Judgment Day when
to-
he does something
Yeah, the
important.
day of reckoning. He goes to Palatine's speaking event, and we get that brilliant shot of his hands, pulling out the pills, and then that's all seen from underneath his head. And then once he takes the
The
pills,
hands like Bresson.
the
Go on.
camera shoots up to reveal the mohawk
Yep.
that he has shaved.
A
into his-
normal thing a normal person does when they're trying to be casual.
Yeah, absolutely.
shave their head into a radical do.
And as Palatine is leaving, he starts to rush towards him, and the
Makes
Secret
it
Service
very
guy
obvious.
notices him again. He has that same fucking smirk on his face that he did in the scene earlier with the Secret Service agent. The guy goes after him. Travis is terrified and runs. And then he's got to follow that up with, well, I didn't get to kill that guy, so I got to kill somebody.
I gotta do something.
I gotta do something. I gotta be important somehow.
So he goes and he kills Sport.
Travis.
Like literally walks up to him and just like,
You got a gun?
and then he just pops him in the stomach. After Keitel flicks his cigarette at him, he taunts him. He's like, "Get out of here, you fucking! I'll kick your ass." And he's
Yep.
taunted. So now he's like, "Okay."
Yep.
And he shoots him.
It's fucking wild.
It just
And-
goes to an 11.
And this is one of the most brutal sequences in film history.
it's crazy.
And
He
it's
gets-
not really all that well done either, but the way it's
I
done is
think
just
that-
so
I think
visceral.
I think that's better.
Yeah.
The sloppiness of it. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is way more visceral.
Because he's just doing it.
Yeah.
Just
There's
fucking
no
doing it.
thought.
And I like, you guys know, I like it when there's touch of reality in movies where it's just like, this is like, I think one of the most real ways this shit could play out.
Yeah.
Just like, this is crazy. It isn't until like the very, very end of the climax where I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on? But a little bit before he approaches Keitel, you see Jodie Foster Iris. She gets taken inside the hotel room.
Oh,
She
yeah,
ju-
by another dude.
by another dude who just bought some time. Just because that's how you know, that's how Travis knows where to go in there. He's like, well, I know the room. I've been in the room. And I know she's in there because I just saw her walk up with a dude.
Yes.
Isis Sport walks in. Ice is the like nice doorman.
The
Not the nice.
nice
I'm
door-
sorry. I didn't mean I didn't mean to describe
There's
him
a
like that.
shot of that guy earlier in the movie after he leaves Iris's apartment. He comes out of the pitch black darkness towards Travis to
Yeah.
collect them. Oh, it's so fucking
He's
scary.
a very ominous guy.
Yeah.
He gets dropped now.
No, he doesn't get dropped. He gets his finger shot off.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
he keeps going at him. It's like Mean Streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he shoots the dude in the bathroom, he just keeps attacking him.
Yep.
It's literally that guy again.
Yep.
Ah!
I'll kill you.
You
I'll kill you.
motherfucker! You motherfucker!
And then the dude who's doing shit with Iris comes out and tries to
starts
shoots,
blasting.
Shoots
Yeah.
Travis.
Shoots Travis in the arm.
Arm or neck?
No,
Arm
neck
first.
is Keitel. Arm first.
No, he gets shot in the neck.
Yeah, Keitel,
he's like,
Keitel shoots him in the neck.
Oh, I forgot Keitel came.
That's
back.
when I'm like, all right.
Keitel gets a double tap.
All right, you guys take over.
And so anyway, he's going up the stairs and shit, and there's all these slow-mo shots with the guy screaming, "I'll kill you," and like fucking it's wild. It's just very off, unsettling and strange. And then Travis inevitably falls into Iris's room and fucking kills the guy that's in there. And then the dude, the nice doorman, jumps on him. And fucking, this is where we get the stabbing sequence that we talked about, where Travis pulls the knife out from his boot and stabs the guy straight through the hand, and we see it for a split second.
And Iris screams.
Iris screams, "Don't shoot him!" and he shoots him point blank under the chin and kills him.
In
Blood
the
splatters all
head.
over the wall.
All over her. It's so fucked
And then
up.
fucking immediately,
She's so terrified.
Immediately puts the gun to his chin and tries to kill himself.
Yep.
Like,
there's no
literally.
We
hesitation.
did
But, like-
gloss over the fact that Keitel does come back
Do you
while
think
he's
he-
fighting the dude with no fingers.
Yes.
Fights the dude, shoots him in the neck. De Niro doesn't
Yeah,
die.
dude, I was talking about the guy. He stabbed that guy in the
No.
hand.
Yeah, but
Keitel
Keitel
shot
shot him in the neck
Yeah, I know.
before that happened.
We didn't talk about it.
I thought we did.
We glazed over it.
He
tries to kill himself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
just
tries
lays
to
back
off
on the
himself.
couch, and the cops show up, and he puts the gun to his head, finger guns to his head that he's been having pointed at him the
and
whole
he's
movie.
bleeding profusely. He's got several gunshot wounds
Yep.
at this point.
And the
Including
blood is
one in the neck.
dripping off his finger.
He's very injured, and Jodie Foster's covered in blood and just crying in the corner.
Mhm.
And the cop approaches, and I thought he was going to shoot him because he's got his gun drawn, and like they have like a little stare down moment, and that's what he does, the finger guns to his head.
And then
If
we
you
get that
walked
brilliant.
in with no context.
Yeah.
You'd probably think
That was the
Travis
guy.
Was the guy like, oh shit?
But then we get that brilliant overhead shot over the whole scene
Yeah.
of the crime, and it goes
Slow
out into the
motion.
hallway. And apparently, that is the only real sequence of camera direction that was written into the script. Schrader was like, "That's got to be in there," and they had to.
call.
They had to cut out the ceiling in a building and like create a rail that went all the way through. It was like a very complicated process from what I remember.
a nice
Like
shot.
hearing about, it's crazy.
And then it goes out, and there's a bunch of people in the street, and it looks like a big deal. It's what Travis wanted.
And then all of a sudden we get a fade to some time later where Travis has newspaper articles sprinkled across his wall all about how he's a hero who saved, this poor girl's
While
life.
reading a letter
killed
from
a pimp.
Iris's parents. It just, thank you so much for saving our daughter. She's in school. She's doing well. She
Yep.
says hi.
Yep.
Sorry we couldn't see you personally. You're always welcome.
Yep.
While we look at the newspaper clippings calling him a hero. And then there's the scene of him at the diner with the other caddies. And he seems like one of the chums, right?
Yeah, again, and it's
He's
like
like
it's
he's
almost like
earned
a
his
scene
spot.
earlier, like he's back
Yeah.
to normal.
He
And
let it
then-
out.
and then he gets back into a cab and he's driving and he picks up a passenger, and that passenger happens to be
Betsy.
the object of his affection. And
Betsy DeVos.
they have a very brief interaction that's not very special or interesting at all. It's,
So anticlimactic.
yeah,
I
very
love it.
brief, and he almost is trying to act as if he doesn't care
Like,
that she's
trying
in
to
the
be- he's
cab.
trying to be cool guy, and
Yep.
she also is kind of like, I don't give a fuck.
This
There's
is
a little bit of longing there. I'm like trying to force it out of my head, but I think there is a little bit of longing there.
Because it's his.
This is where we finally reach the end, where, at least in my humble opinion, it is
Whose opinion?
mine,
And you are.
Jesse.
Come on, it was teed up.
I'm sorry.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Frank.
More definitive in my mind, the latter epilogue half of the film is a death dream.
That whole last couple minutes.
No.
Yeah, the whole last
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
of
yeah.
minutes. Like, after he puts the gun to his head and everything. Like, cops probably find him and everything, but he dies. Like, at least I assume. Because everything that happens after that is too perfect. It's just too good. And I think that or at least the mirror thing, because we talked about that before, how the plot literally is a mirror of each other. It's two halves that are basically the same thing, just different perspectives or different classes, rather.
You guys said this when we watched it, that it could be like a death dream sort of thing. And I started to think about it in a very literal sense. And here's my pitch to why it's the real deal. The scar on his neck.
Well, yeah,
You see the scar of his wound, and if that's the wound that kills him, why, if in the afterlife, do you keep the scars of the wounds that kill you?
I don't know.
What if you were killed
I
or
think that's
maimed?
subjective.
Well, then that's everything subjective. That's the life. What I'm saying is, I think it was real. I think
Well, that's fair.
I think it's just dramatic.
It's fair.
Like, how do we end this?
I think it's just as disturbing if it's real.
I think if it's his dream, she would have done more.
I just think it's a very weird the way it's stayed, the way everything is done. It just does. It feels different from the rest of the movie. It doesn't feel
I
like
do
it's in
agree.
the same thing. And then the shot in the mirror, the way the score plays in reverse for just a brief second. And I'm pretty sure that was a touch that Bernard Herrmann added because this was the last film that he scored. Even though Obsession came out the same year, and I think sometimes it's technically called his last score, I believe this is the last film he physically scored. Pretty poignant score too.
If it's not a death dream, I think it's still kind of in his head. If anything,
I
I mean,
that's
we're
at
in his
least what it's
perspective the
show-
whole time, so.
right? And I think it's showing. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if he was hailed a hero and got that letter, but maybe Betsy never got in the cab, and that's his double take. I'm not cured.
Maybe I'm
either
the
way,
scum that
it's
needs to be washed off the streets.
they both make sense to me.
But I think that's what makes it that much better of a movie.
Mhm.
You can't actually lay it down.
I'm
Even though I did
majority.
use the word definitive in my mind. But I just think I like that idea.
I lean closer to that interpretation.
And as far as
Certainly more
that
interesting.
is the end of Taxi Driver. But as far as
Took
Yeah.
us fucking long.
general
enough.
thoughts on the film and its place in the Chronic Canon, I think I can just say outright, at least in my head, I would call it a Chronic Canon film.
Let's be blunt.
We can be blunt.
Let's be blunt. You
Just
know,
like the
I
movie.
was a bit salty at first, but I also I repeated to you
It's
guys.
tough.
Repeated to you guys when after we first watched it. I was like, I just need time.
Mm-hmm.
On the surface level, like just seeing it, and then I just know that I need time to interpret the movie for what it was. That's why it's not rated on my letterbox right now. Because if I rate things based off of when I first see them, I end up giving them a shitty rating. I need time to sit on it. I need time to rest on it a little bit. Stop being salty. Stop marinating in my feelings and start marinating on the film itself. It is great. It's great. Even simply in the terms of the scope of what Scorsese has done. But even now, as a character study of Travis Bickle, I think there's a lot that can be learned from there. I just really hate that people don't always view movies like this. So my worry always is like, yeah, sure, I get it. But like, there's probably so many people that watch this movie and are not disgusted with Travis. Now, I'm not saying that people like it and don't get that you're not supposed to love him, but like he sickens me. And I don't think there's any sort of admiration or any sort of like, even in hindsight, the things that you feel bad about, you stop feeling bad about by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
That's the
It
tough
can't be interpreted.
It's not
like
him
that always.
that I relate to, if that's the right word even. It's the situations that he finds himself in, those aspects. A porno theater isn't necessarily, it's the exaggerated version of, oh, I'm going to take a girl to, like, I know a guy who watched Blue Velvet with a girl on the first date and she never talked to him again. And I told you, yeah, that was a horrible idea. Why did you do that? Regardless, that's an equivalent in real life, but not that weird in that scope.
Yeah.
Very weird in Travis's case.
I actually, coming in, thought I was definitely going to say no to the Chronic Canon. I was pretty confident. Even though I liked this more than the last couple times I watched it, I still was like, I don't think so. But after talking it out, I think it is yes. My vote would be yes.
Okay. Well, what made it change, if I may ask briefly?
Nothing specific, just the whole conversation. I mean, we've been doing it live in our ears and not in yours. Or
Nope.
Close enough.
That was it. So
was
good
it?
job. Yeah.
Oh,
Live in our ears, not in
hell
yours.
Yeah, and it's also the Chronic Canon, and I said it right this whole time.
Hey, if you don't like heat, why are you still here?
Get
We
out.
told you to get the fuck out of here.
It's only
You're not
your
welcome.
fault at this point.
Anyway.
All right, that's terrible. All right, I don't know. Fuck, just all the real time revelations. I don't know. It's
I
just
don't
like,
know.
Wow.
Fuck.
Just being able to talk at length, seeing more dots connect than I've been able to do simultaneously.
Yeah.
I feel like I've understood a lot of these points in a vacuum, maybe different watches, maybe in moments, reading, whatever.
Over time.
But it feels like in this conversation, I'm like, oh, like I see the whole map of the movie almost. And I'm like, this is good.
Even if it's not chronological, but still.
It's close enough.
We did pretty good.
Did you have another bit from Pauline Kael you wanted to read?
Yeah, I figured I'd just do that at the end. Like, make that the last thing. Just let
Okay.
me read. Okay.
Well, real quick, I just want to say I'm sorry to our listeners if you at all enjoy this, though I believe we're God's lonely men. We probably should skip the latter half of the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay.
Are you okay with that?
It's fine. I'll talk about Training Day next week.
Just talk about it now.
just
I don't have a movie.
I just like Training Day. I saw Training Day recently. I want you
fucking
guys
great.
to watch
Yeah, it's a
Training
great
Day.
movie.
I saw Training Day for the first time. I think it's cool. Denzel gave a great performance. Really liked Ethan Hawke's performance. Great
Hey,
movie.
look
Hot.
at me. Denzel, Training Day. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. King Kong ain't got shit on me.
I didn't know what we were doing.
There's
panicked.
so
I'm
I
many-
just wanted to see if you'd get
I
it.
mean, I'm
so
glad you
sorry.
guys
It's okay.
didn't say the one he says in the car, which is what I thought you were going to say.
What did he say in the car?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I already decided before we started this podcast that I won't drop the N-word on the podcast out of respect.
Hey,
word.
okay. Anyway, back to Taxi Driver.
Wait, no. Pick a
Say
random
it.
movie, just real fast. Suspiria remake. Go see it. It rules. Don't believe the reviews. I didn't watch it recently, but I haven't watched anything in a while.
Quick.
just
What have I
quick.
watched?
Cries and
recently?
Whispers?
Just so fast.
Cries and Whispers.
Nice.
Ingmar Bergman's most anguished
nice.
movie.
Lit.
Soaked in red.
It's the best one. I got to rewatch them all, but it's the
Fucking,
best
it's a
one.
hot movie.
Horrifying. It's a horror movie.
Horny all the way.
It's the better Exorcist.
So is this.
You heard it here
Sexy.
first.
Can I read things?
Yep.
I have one thing before the Pauline Kael review, and then I'm going to read a couple paragraphs and call it a day.
Okay, we talking the Quentin thing?
Fuck. All right, 3 more things, and we got to be done.
3, 2, 1,
Go.
There's an old Hollywood story. The Quentin Tarantino talks about it more than one time, and I think other filmmakers have. I got a quote pulled up from Quentin talking about it. Story about when Martin Scorsese.
Sassy.
Fuck, I knew it.
I can
All right.
see your brain working.
It hurts. Story about when he was making Taxi Driver, Martin, that is. The studio wanted to recut a lot of it because it was too violent. Oh, actually, I think it was a lot of changes. De Palma said, and another thing, that he was there when the studio heads were tearing his movie apart. They're like, you got to recut all this.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese, was that right?
Sassy.
Fuck. He's pissed now, and he's like, my damn movie, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to quote Quentin now. The legend goes that
Sassy.
Scorsese stayed up all night drinking, getting drunk with a loaded gun, and his purpose was in the morning he was going to shoot the executive at Columbia for making him cut his masterpiece. And it turned out to be a vigil all night as Scorsese sat there with a loaded gun in his lap, and some of his fellow filmmakers and friends commiserated with him and tried to talk him out of it. And apparently this all lasted all night. I've heard stories that literally all of them grew up that night because they realized how serious Scorsese was at the prospect of what he was going to do. So he became Travis Bickle. Waka. Probably because he was doing too many drugs.
Well, and I do want to point out something, too, that I think is important, that the reason Scorsese and Schrader both felt attached to the work was because that they both felt like they reached a low point like Travis, at a point in their lives that made them connect with the material in a way. And obviously, neither of them are Travis-level people, but there was something there probably at the time that was a bit more disturbing than surely they'd care to think about.
Which, frankly, I think only makes it scarier.
Yep.
But is that good? No.
Yeah.
Makes it worse. Copies of the film were distributed for TV broadcasts and had an unexplained disclaimer added during the closing credits. And it said, to our television audience, in the aftermath of violence, the distinction between hero and villain is sometimes a matter of interpretation or misinterpretation of facts. Taxi Driver suggests that tragic errors can be made. The filmmakers. So they're calling out that he's not a hero.
Yeah, like they felt like they had to make a point.
Which leads us to Pauline Kael's review. Some actors are said to be empty vessels who are filled by the roles they play, but that's not what appears to be happening here with De Niro. He's gone the other way. He's used his emptiness. He's reached down into his own enemy. Only Brando has done this kind of plunging, and De Niro's performance has something of the undistanced intensity that Brando's had in Last Tango. In its own way, this movie, too, has an erotic aura. There is practically no sex in it, but no sex can be as disturbing as sex. And that's what it's about, the absence of sex. Bottled up, impacted energy and emotion with a blood-splattering release. The fact that we experience Travis's need for an explosion viscerally, and that the explosion itself has the quality of consummation, makes Taxi Driver one of the few truly modern horror films. Anyone who goes to the movie houses that loners frequent knows that they identify with the perpetrators of crimes, even the most horrible crimes, and that they aren't satisfied unless there's a whopping climax. In his essay, The White Negro, Norman Mailer suggested that when a killer takes his revenge on the institutions that he feels are oppressing him, his eruption of violence can have a positive effect on him. The most shocking aspect of Taxi Driver is that it takes this very element, which has generally been exploited for popular appeal, and puts it in the center of the viewer's consciousness. Violence is Travis's only means of expressing himself. He has not been able to hurdle the barriers to being seen and felt. When he blasts through, it's his only way of telling the city that he's there. And given his ascetic loneliness, it's the only real orgasm he can have. The violence in this movie is so threatening precisely because it's cathartic for Travis. I imagine that some people who are angered by the film will say that it advocates violence as a cure for frustration. But to acknowledge that when a psychopath's blood boils over, he may cool down is not the same as justifying the eruption. This film doesn't operate on the level of moral judgment of what Travis does. Rather, by drawing us into his vortex, it makes us understand the psychic discharge of the quiet boys who go berserk. And it's a real slap in the face for us when we see Travis at the end looking pacified. He's got the rage out of his system, for the moment at least, and he's back at work, picking up passengers in front of the St. Regis. It's not that he's cured, but that the city is crazier than he is. That is Pauline Kael in 1976. She kind of saved the movie. They submitted her to do an early review, and I think it gave them credit to the studio to be like, please let this movie remain.
That's incredible.
Because
that's incredibly. I was literally about to say I hate that it sounds so vulgar, but the headshot we talked about toward the end is like the cum shot.
Yep.
If you think of it that way.
That's in real time. That's first opinion. Probably has laid the foundation for other people to talk about it, including us. How to perceive film, the intentionality. It's difficult. It's not fun, but it's there, and maybe it's art.
And important to think about in that sense.
I just realized I read a lot of words. Y'all could have just read it. But I felt like it was worth having.
It was.
I'm glad you read it.
I never heard that or read that, so I'm glad that you
I didn't
did that.
until today.
And I want to say to close out, not the antithesis to Taxi Driver, but if you haven't seen it, a great companion piece that also stars Bob De Niro and directed by Brian De Palma.
Meet the Fockers.
Hi, Mom. You fucking...
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Sure. Go watch
Mostly Hi Mom.
Go watch Hi, Mom if you like Taxi Driver. and you like weird movies.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. This has been the Chronic Canon. Taxi driver Martin Scorsese signing off. Goodbye.
Next week's New York, New York.
Bye bye.